Good evening, everyone. This is a regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment for Wednesday, December 4th, 2024. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and sending a copy to the Montclair Times, Star Ledger, and Herald News. This is a public hearing in which any members of the public are welcome to attend. The meeting agenda is available on the Montclair website, as is a link to the township's YouTube channel where the hearing can be viewed live or after the fact. The hearing is also being televised on Channel 34. And some changes to the agenda to announce. Application number 2897, 28 Carteret Street, with applicant Kathleen Gebhardt has withdrawn and will not be proceeding today. Application number 2886, 61 Mission Street, Vic and Mina Property Management has been postponed until December 18th without need for further notice. Okay, I'll call the roll. Chair Harrison.
Here.
Vice Chair McCullough.
Here.
Mr. Caulfield.
Here.
Mr. Church.
Here.
Ms. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Moore is not present. Mr. Simon.
Here.
Mr. Vieira.
Here.
Ms. Grant is not present. And Mr. Griffith.
Here.
Mr. Cruz is not present. And Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
Okay.
We have the minutes of the November 6th meeting. I have a couple of changes and one question. On page 2, on line 55, you have the townhouse units being 760 square feet. I know they're small, but I don't think they're that small.
Yeah, the base.
Okay,
Square
so
foot. I'll
say
include the-
footprint.
Okay. Footprint.
And then on page 3, the top lines, line 66, just delete "and the board chair." So it's just because I didn't have any conversations with them. And then on page 7, I was going to ignore this, except then the next line is different. Page 239, fire truck should be 2 words because it's 2 words in the next. Or you can put it as 1 word in both, but they should be the same. Any other changes to the minutes? If not, someone want to move them with those changes?
I'll move the minutes with the changes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Then we have the meeting calendar for next year, which hopefully we will not have to have all these meetings, but better to schedule and adjourn than try and figure out dates in the middle of the year. Any proposed changes to the schedule? If not, someone want to move the meeting dates for next year?
I'll move the meeting dates for next year.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? And then, for reasons I don't know, because I had it last night, I don't have the announcement for the first application. I suspect somewhere. Thank you. Next, the first application is that of Montclair Dental Spa LLC for property at 204 Claremont Avenue. This is an application for a conditional use approval and site plan approval to convert the second floor of the existing mixed-use building to medical and dental use and to reconfigure the existing parking area and other site improvements to the property. The property is in the OR3 Garden Apartment and Office Building Zone. It's designated on the Montclair tax maps as Block 2310, Lot 6. Mixed-use buildings are permitted conditional use in the OR3 zone. The applicant is seeking a variance from the conditional use standard in Section 347-60B3 to permit 7 on-site parking spaces, whereas the ordinance requires a minimum of 20 spaces. A variance from Montclair Code Section 347-102 to permit parking areas with no aisles, whereas the ordinance requires parking areas be accessible from paved aisles, and a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-65 to permit parking spaces in the front yard, whereas the ordinance provides parking spaces may not be located in a front yard, and a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-65 to permit a parking area to be set back 1 foot from the property line, whereas the ordinance requires parking areas to be set back at least 3 feet from property lines. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Tremblay, can I give your appearance and proceed?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Alan Trembulac appearing on behalf of the applicant, Montclair Dental Spa LLC. As the chairman indicated from the legal notice, this is an application for site plan approval for property located directly across the street from where we are at 204 Claremont Avenue, at the corner of Claremont Avenue and Cottage Place. Property contains a 3-story building with a small parking area on the corner, which, currently pursuant to prior approvals, actually encroaches into the right-of-way. One of the conditions we're looking to correct as part of this, or improve as part of this application. Property is located in the OR3 zoning district, which permits buildings with a mix of residential and office uses, including professional offices and medical offices. This property has in fact been used as a mixed-use building since 2001, pursuant to prior approvals granted by the planning board. The most recent approval relating to this property was in 2013, at which time the planning board granted site plan approval to permit a medical/dental office on the first floor of the 3-story building with 2 residential apartments on the 2 upper floors. It's important to note that in connection with both of the prior planning board applications in 2001 and again in 2013, the board essentially determined that the 6 parking spaces that currently exist on this property were adequate for this building and the mixed use as a dental office and 2 apartments. The Montclair Dental Spa has operated, from this location since I believe 2016 on the first floor of the building. Sometime shortly before this application was filed, the second floor apartment in the building was converted to an office use to provide additional space for the dental practice. Unbeknownst to my client, site plan approval was required for that. They contacted me shortly after, I believe after the work was done. I advised them that they needed site plan approval, and they directed me to do whatever needed to be done in order to obtain the approvals for this conversion. And subsequently, I obviously filed this application, which brings us here tonight, in which we're seeking to, we're seeking site plan approval related to the conversion of the second floor to office space. We need 3 variances as part of this application. They all pertain to parking. 2 of them are essentially existing conditions. The existing parking area that was approved by the planning board is in the front yard on the Cottage Place side of the street. We're seeking to continue that, although we will be pulling the parking spaces closer to the building and out of the right-of-way. And we are proposing to also add a 7th parking space there, which would also be located in the front yard. So we need, again, a variance to permit the front yard parking, or to permit at least the additional 1 parking space in the front yard. And then, although we're pulling the parking spaces out of the right-of-way, which is an improvement over the current condition, we don't have the 3-foot separation or setback between the parking area and the property line. Again, improvement over the current condition, but still technically a variance for intruding into the required side yard. And then the third variance relates to the amount of parking spaces. The ordinance for the OR3 zoning district includes the parking requirement as part of the conditional use requirements, and the ordinance provides that we're required to provide parking for either the residential or the non-residential use, whichever is greater. The parking requirement obviously is greater for the office use, but that translates to a requirement of 19 spaces for this property. Again, currently there's 6. We're proposing to add a 7th space along Cottage Place. And also, for several years, my client has been renting 8 parking spaces in the adjacent parking lot behind the building off of Cottage Place that's owned by Immaculate Conception High School. And we have an agreement that memorializes the dental spa's right to continue to utilize those 8 spaces. So when you include the 8 spaces along with the 7 on Cottage Place, we'll have a total of 15, whereas 19 is required. So that's the relief we're seeking tonight. I have 2 witnesses to present. My first witness will be Christian Liebeck, who's the office administrator for the dental spa, who will just describe how the building is utilized and the current operations and parking, et cetera. And then following his testimony, we'll have the project architect, Paul Sionis, who will testify regarding the site plan and also provide planning testimony in support of the variances. So, having said that, I'd like to call Tristan, it is Liebeck, right? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yep.
Liebeck as my first witness.
All right, let me swear in board professionals first. So Zana, would you raise your right hand, and this is with respect to all of the applications tonight. Do you swear to tell the truth of the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and position with the township.
Zainab Gazmi, Assistant Planner.
Okay, when you raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes, I do.
State your name and address.
Tristan Liebeck. The address of the office, or like my physical address?
The office address is fine.
204 Claremont Ave, Montclair, New Jersey.
Okay, Mr. Tremblay, just make sure that microphone is on, and if it's not, if it is, just pull it a little bit closer so we can,
Better?
yes.
Okay, Tristan, by whom are you employed?
Montclair Dental Spa
And how long have you worked for the dental spa?
since 2020.
Okay, and what is your current position there?
I'm the office administrator.
All right, and what are your duties and responsibilities as office administrator?
I oversee the entire office, from treatment coordinators to dental assistants, dental doctors, and just a basic flow of the office.
Okay. And how long has the Montclair Dental Spa operated from 204 Claremont Avenue?
Dr. Musa has been there since 2016.
Dr. Musa is the primary dentist or owner of the practice?
The owner of the practice, correct.
All right. And how would you describe the nature of the dentistry practice? Is it a general dentistry practice?
No, it's a full mouth reconstructive dental office.
Okay. And can you just explain what that entails?
They do everything from your basic teeth cleaning to full mouth reconstruction with bone marrow, full mouth replacements, teeth whitenings, more of the spa and the amenities.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to ask you some basic questions regarding how the office space is utilized and how the practice operates from this location. First of all, can you tell us how many treatment rooms are, located in the building?
There's 3 treatment rooms.
And where are they? Are they on the first floor?
On the main floor. Yep, first floor.
Okay. Is there an additional treatment room that's reserved for handicapped people who need accessibility?
Yes, we also have a elevator ramp on the outside with accessible people.
Okay. And how many dentists work out of the office, or in the office, I
There's
should say?
4 dental offices. Dental doctors, I'm sorry.
Okay. Do they all work at the same time?
No, they do not. There's no more than 2 in one location.
Okay.
And we also purchased a second location in Verona where our overflow goes.
Okay. All right, so are you saying that there's a maximum of 2 dentists in the office at any given time?
That is correct.
Okay. And how many dental hygienists do you employ?
We employ 2.
Okay.
No
And
more than 1 in location at a time.
So we're talking about the Montclair location
Montclair
is the one
location is
we're
one.
talking about tonight. So there would be 1 there,
Yep.
a maximum of 1. Okay. And how about dental assistants? How many of those do you employ?
We employ 5 dental assistants, no more than 2 at one time.
Okay. All right, and what other employees or staff do you have in the Montclair office?
There are treatment coordinators.
How many of those?
We have 2 of those, no more than 1 on a single day.
Okay. Do you have a receptionist?
Yes, we have 2 receptionists
Okay.
and 1.
One at a time,
One at a
I'm
time.
assuming? Okay, and I assume you have an office?
Yes.
there? Okay, is there any other employees or staff?
No, there's not.
Okay. So if my math is correctly, I think you have basically 8 or 9 maximum at any point in time, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Can you explain the reasoning or the why the practice chose to expand into the second floor space?
Yeah, we chose to expand to the second floor just for employees, basically. The first floor is very heavily with doctors and dentists, and there's no real kitchen area. So the second floor had that kitchen area where we changed it to a staff lounge, and there was additional 3 offices.
Okay, so so on the second floor, you've got a kitchen, a lounge
A lounge.
for employees?
Mhm.
Would you say 3 offices?
It's 2, I'm sorry. The lounge is considered 1.
Okay. And are there any other rooms on the second floor?
No, that's all.
Are there any treatment rooms or operatories on the second floor?
No treatment rooms, no operatories.
Okay. Are any patients seen on the second floor?
Patients are not seen by dental doctors on the second floor.
Okay. Do patients ever go up to the second floor?
Yes, they do. We have a studio lounge, so the only reason why a patient would come up there if they're getting before or after photos completed.
Okay. All right. Has there been any increase since you performed these improvements and expanded into the second floor? Has there been any increase in the number of dentists, hygienists, or dental assistants?
No, there's not. It's stayed the
Okay.
same.
Do you anticipate any increase in dentist assistants or hygienists?
No, we do not.
Okay. So I take it the purpose of expanding the space into the second floor was not to accommodate additional patient volume, but just to provide more space for the staff and employees? Is that a fair statement?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, and then I want to talk about parking. You currently have 6 parking spaces on, or right off of Cottage Place, is that correct?
Correct.
And does the dental spa have an arrangement with Immaculate Conception High School to park vehicles in the parking lot that's basically behind your building?
Yes, we do.
Do you know how long that arrangement has been in place?
I do not off the top of my head, but I think it's been a couple years.
Okay. And I'm going to mark this document as Exhibit A1, and I have copies to hand out to the board. I'm just going to ask you if you can identify that.
Yep, it's the letter from the Immaculate Conception High School, dated on June 6, 2024, just stating that we're able to use 8 parking spaces adjacent to Montclair Dental Spa, and they are labeled dental office parking only.
Can you talk about how parking is managed? Do you require that your employees park in any particular area or not park in any particular area?
Yes, we instruct our employees to park in the Immaculate Conception lot first, just so we can leave our front right by our main door for our patients.
Okay. So employees are directed not to park in the 6 existing spaces off of Cottage Place?
That is correct.
Okay. And that's typically where your employees park? I mean, patients?
Patients are parked, correct.
Okay. Now, there's a tenant on the 3rd floor, residential tenant on the 3rd floor, is that right?
That is correct.
How many cars does that tenant have, do you know?
1.
Okay. Is the tenant also an employee of the practice?
Yes, the tenant is an employee.
And what is it, what is her, is it her?
Yes, she
What-
is a treatment coordinator,
Okay.
and she's been at the practice since 2019.
Okay. Okay. All right, I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. No further questions.
You have any?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Liebeck. Just a few questions for you. So just going back to this staff member that's living in the attic unit, is occupancy of that tied to terms of employment?
No, it is not.
How long have you been associated with this building?
Since 2020. So
Since
4
you
years.
began in 19. Do you know what was the prior history in terms of residency within that unit?
I do not.
And in terms of the second floor, that was also being rented out at one point for residential purposes?
Correct.
Okay, and did that resident voluntarily leave that space?
Yes, they did. It was vacant before Dr. Musa took it over.
And when was that approximately? So it's been vacant a long time, it was vacant a long
Yeah,
time?
it was vacant for a while. I'm not sure on that timing.
So in terms of the attic unit, it's not tied to terms of employment, so is there an annual lease? Is that how that's managed?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the renovations, and this question is really from the perspective of you as someone who's managing the property. So the second floor renovations, I mean, sort of moved from it being vacated space to now being utilized as basically hosting of staff. Is it anticipated at some point that this space could be converted into practice space?
No, it will not.
Could it?
It could, technically.
And would that be an easy proposition, or would it be complicated?
No, it would not, because at a dental office, you need chairs, you need water lines run up there, you need air tanks. The layout of the office isn't equipped to run that from where it is in the basement all the way up.
And is that's part of the rationale for why the second office was located in Verona?
Correct.
Also, you mentioned the number of staff people that are in the building at any given time is approximately 8 or 9 people.
Correct.
Approximately how many patients would be in the building, along with those 8 and 9?
At one time,
Yes.
probably about 6 to 7.
Yeah.
And there is like an overlap depending on like a patient leaving and coming,
Mhm.
because they tend to stack their schedules as people come in and out.
Mhm, mhm. All right, and then I guess my last question would be related to public safety. As you're sort of looking through your professional lens at the facility and the improvements that are before the zoning board, do you see any of these changes that would negatively impact public safety?
No, they would not.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Along the lines of public safety, is there egress from that attic to the street level, or do they have to go through all the offices? How's it work?
Through
In-
the
in- in-
backside, there's one main stairwell that
Okay.
goes from the main floor to the top floor.
And that's accessible?
Yes, from
So-
both the third floor and the second floor.
So that would be could be utilized as a fire escape?
Correct. But
Okay.
I can't think off the top of my head if there is a fire escape on the back of the building. I'm
Uh-huh.
not sure on that.
But there is a opportunity for the resident in the event of a fire or some other disaster.
Yes, there's means of egress.
They can get out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So some of your procedures, like what's the longest procedure that a client would undertake in your office?
Could get lengthy. Sometimes the surgeries can be up to 6 to 8 hours.
Okay.
But those are only done on certain days. Like
Gotcha.
those long surgeries, normally on Sundays, when there's no one in the office.
Those long surgeries are done on Sundays?
Sundays.
Does the office open on Saturdays?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And they're also open for emergencies.
Okay, on emergencies. Does anyone, such as clients or staff, ever park on the street?
Yes.
What is the street parking like there? Is there time limits? and
Yes,
stuff
it's a 1 hour parking that's monitored by the town. And then there's also on the Claremont side, there's metered parking. So they could park this whole side and then the back side. I don't know the street name. Sorry. Fuller, maybe?
Fullerton?
Fullerton? Yeah.
Would it be helpful in some sense if, like, I guess, would it be helpful if the town provided parking for you on Cottage Place where there were signs that people couldn't park there if they weren't going to the dentist's office? And then, would that be
It would
something
be.
that would help you?
Yeah, but it's a little tough at the school there.
Oh, does the school, I mean, I've
They
gone
have
by
the
the school,
school
I don't
lot,
think
but-
I've, is
yeah.
it open? I just,
Yeah.
I've rarely, I mean, sometimes I'm there, it's like never open, it seems like, but it is open.
Yeah, it's open.
And how is it like there with the school?
Depending on the time of day,
Mhm.
it's busy. Like when school comes in, it's very busy. And
Buses come in
buses-
and off that street, do you think, to pick kids up and go out that way, do you know?
I don't think I've ever witnessed a bus come down
Okay.
that block, to be honest.
Okay. And would cars be parked on both sides of that street?
No, it's one
just
side only.
One side only?
Yeah,
Okay.
the right side.
The right side, okay. All right, thank you.
The improvements that you made on the second floor for the employee amenities, was a building permit pulled for those?
I do not know. I wasn't the one who did that. It was the previous office manager.
Got it, okay. Mr. Tremulak, are you aware of a building permit?
There was no like walls, I'm sorry. There was no walls or anything put up because it was an open floor space with like a kitchen and a living room. So we just kept that same concept and the bedrooms are just offices.
I don't know the answer to your question, but our next witness may be able to comment on that, I think. He knows what was done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few questions. Can you describe how is the basement utilized for the practice?
Yes, it's just storage.
Just storage?
And that's where like their air tanks and their compressor systems for the office are housed.
And then can you clarify also the access to the attic? It wasn't very clear on the comment that you made. So is it a dedicated access to the attic, or does the tenant has to go through the interior of the?
No, they don't have to go through the interior of the office. It's got its own access through the back. It's one stairwell. Like when you walk in, there's the dental practice. You go up a floor, that's the second floor. And then right outside the second floor door to the practice is the third floor apartment, which leads to stairs that go up again, which lead into the apartment.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Hi. So the work has already been done, the conversion. You're currently utilizing the second floor?
That is correct.
When the work was done for the second floor, were any changes made to the first floor layout?
No, there were not.
So the layout here is exactly how it was prior?
Exactly the same, yep.
Okay. Regarding the tenant, do they have a dedicated parking space?
No, they just park in the Immaculate Conception.
So with that arrangement, that's designated for the dental office. If that tenant no longer is employed, or if there's a new tenant, would they still have access to that parking space?
Yes, they would.
Okay. And that's in a lease agreement, I assume?
Yeah, I would have to check on the lease agreement, but I don't think it's not there now.
Okay. One more question. And the access to the parking in a school lot, is that 24 hours a day? 'Cause it's not
24 hours,
24
yes.
hours. Okay, thank you.
Two.
Sorry. How many assistants in the
Two.
building? Two. And patients?
Patients could be anywhere from 6 to 7.
6 to 7. So I add that up and I get 11 to 12, which it doesn't equal 8, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
I want to follow up on, I'm now a little confused on start with the staff. You went through number of various categories. There are 2 dentists at any one time, and ultimately I want to do a condition on number of staff. I do not want to break it down by each category. So in response to Mr. Trembulac, you indicated 8 to 9, counting the 2 dentists. And I only got 6 other staff maximum, and I'm not sure whether I didn't quite get it correctly, but you want to go over the other staff that would be there, including yourself at any one time?
Yep. So there's 2 dentists, 2 assistants, 1 hygienist, 2 reception, 1 treatment coordinator, and 1 office manager.
You previously said there's only be 1 receptionist at any one time. Is it 1 or 2 on site?
It's 2.
So that, if I'm doing that correctly, that's 9.
Right.
That will be there, staff and dentists at any one time. The
treatment coordinator is also the tenant, so that's the same person.
Okay, but I do not want to put a condition on this that says the tenant has to be an employee of the practice.
We'd appreciate that, yes.
So I'm ignoring that fact as to the, and you said there would be 6 to 7 patients at any one time.
Correct.
I guess, so that's adding up to 16, and you have, with what you're proposing, a total of 15 spaces, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then this may be more for Mr. Trembulac, or this may just be, when I was out there and counting on my fingers, I only saw 7 spaces marked in the Immaculate Conception parking lot, but the letter clearly indicates you get 8 spaces, and in the event 8 are not marked, it probably should be marked. The letter refers to the northeast corner of the high school, which is confusing. It's the northwest corner of the parking lot where the spaces are and where the spaces make sense. And I don't know if the reference to the high school, I guess, as relates to the high school, it's northeast of the high school building, but it's a little odd, and but I think everyone knows where the spaces are, so I'm not really concerned about that. Are there any members of the public who have questions for this witness? Okay, Mr. Trembulac, you want to call Mr. Sionis?
Yes, thank you. Okay, Tristan.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
All right, Paul Sionis, my next witness.
Mr. Sionis, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Paul Sionis. My address is 7 Oak Place, Montclair, New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, I'm offering Mr. Sionis as an expert architect as well as professional planner. He's testified many occasions. I assume you'll accept his qualifications.
We'll accept him more as an architect, but we've heard him as a planner.
Thank you. I'd like to distribute copies of the PowerPoint.
Okay, we're going to mark this as A2.
Okay. I think he's overlap, maybe. It's okay. Yeah. No, good point. Okay. Okay. Paul, you prepared the plans that have been submitted to the board in connection with this application?
Yes.
And by the way, did you also prepare the plans for the prior application to the planning board in 2013?
Yes.
Okay.
And just for the record, at the beginning of October, Sionis Architecture became part of Gregory Schweitzer Architecture, which is known as GSAPC, and it's located at 7 Oak Place in Montclair. So that's as of October 4th.
Okay.
So Sionis Architecture prepared the drawings in 2013, but the drawings before you are part of GSAPC's drawings.
But you were the individual
the architect,
overseeing the
yes.
preparation of the plans
Yes.
for the, okay. And you prepared, as you usually do, a PowerPoint presentation to assist with your presentation tonight?
I did.
And that's been, hard copies have been handed to the board as exhibit, and marked as Exhibit A2?
Yes.
Okay, so would you then, provide your usual presentation utilizing the PowerPoint to explain to the board what's happening here in this, with this site and the relief that's being sought?
So you each have a copy of the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint consists of approximately 10 slides. Purpose of the PowerPoint is to include the drawings that were submitted with the application, plus photographs to better describe the application. So this is an application for minor site plan approval and a variance request to maintain the existing first floor of this commercial building as a medical office or dental office, as you've heard, and to legalize the conversion of the second floor from residential use to an extension of the first floor of medical use. And then the existing third floor apartment is to remain. So the first page of the PowerPoint is the survey map that was prepared by Richland Lupo and Associates in 2012. The property is known as 204 Claremont Avenue. It's Lot 6 within Block 2310. It's in the OR3 Garden Apartment Office Building Zone District. As you know, the property is directly across the street from where we're sitting. It's on the north side of Claremont Avenue at the northeast corner of Claremont Avenue and Cottage Place. The property has an area of 7,955 square feet, which is about 0.1 acres, and the site is relatively flat. The property is improved with a 2.5-story wood frame building that was built in 1870 as per the township records. There's a large asphalt paved parking area at the southwest corner of the site with 6 existing on-site parking stalls that are accessed directly off of Cottage Place with one wide curb cut, which allows cars to access those parking spaces. This paved parking area with those 6 spaces was part of a 2001 approval by the planning board when an applicant applied for site plan and variance approval to allow conversion of the second floor of the building from residential use to office uses. And this was for the Essex Family and Youth Services had occupied and owned the building at the time. So they applied to the planning board to convert the second floor of the building from residential use to counseling offices for Essex Youth and Family Services. As you can see from this survey, the parking is partially within the right-of-way along Cottage Place, which means that the parking extends over the property line on Cottage Place and extends to the curb along Cottage Place. There's no public sidewalk along this west side of the property. There's a public sidewalk just to the south along Cottage Place where I'm pointing with the pointer. So there's a public sidewalk in front of the Immaculate Conception parking lot, which I'm pointing to, but that public sidewalk stops at this property line, the southerly property line. There's no public sidewalk along Cottage Place, and then there's a public sidewalk along the front of the property on Claremont Avenue. There are several existing trees on the property, and there's a lawn area that wraps around, partially around the front of the building and then into the rear yard. The existing use, as we've heard, currently the first floor is occupied by a dental office, which is Montclair Dental Spa. The second floor currently contains a staff training area, a staff lounge, and a kitchen and an office for the first floor dental practice. And the third floor contains one dwelling unit. The previous use was the dental office on the first floor. Second floor had a dwelling unit, and the third floor also had a dwelling unit. There's no change proposed to the size of the building or to the interior configuration of the building. Go to the next slide, please. So the second page of the PowerPoint is a Google Earth satellite view. So the property's located between Cottage Place to the west and North Fullerton Avenue to the east, and it fronts onto Claremont Avenue at the north. The property adjoins the parking lot to the south that's owned by the Church of the Immaculate Conception Church, or as we call it, Immaculate Conception. There's a 2.5-story building with real estate offices directly at the corner of North Fullerton and Claremont. And then across Cottage Place to the west is 206 Claremont Avenue, which is improved with a medical office and parking area. That was converted from a multifamily residential building about 15 years ago into medical offices. And then the Montclair Municipal Building, which is what we're sitting in, is directly across the street and to the north. And the neighborhood is a mixture of uses. It's a mixture of offices, apartments, plus the municipal building. Next slide, Kristen. Thanks. So the third slide is taken from the Montclair zoning map. And as you can see, the property is located within the OR3 Garden Apartment and Office Building Zone District. And within this district, residential use mixed with business offices are permitted as a conditional use subject to certain conditions. And in the zoning ordinance, it lists 3 conditions that must be met for this to be a permitted use. First is that the building facade and the front yard areas shall have a residential appearance. Second is that residential uses shall not be permitted on the first floor, and all regular and emergency access ways to residential uses shall be enclosed within the external walls of the building. And third is that off-street parking shall be equal to that required for either the residential use or the non-residential use, whichever is greater. So those are the 3 conditions for the conditional use within on this property within the OR3 zone. Next slide, please. So there's an interesting history to this property, besides it being constructed in 1870 as a residence, and then it became a multifamily residence. In 1994, according to the town records, the planning board approved conversion of the multifamily building into a mixed office/residential building with offices for counseling services on the first floor and 2 apartments, one on the second floor and one on the third floor. So again, this was counseling offices for family and children's services of North Essex. Then in 2001, the applicant, which again was Family and Children's Services, applied to the planning board for site plan approval to allow conversion of the second floor from the residential use to office use, with a parking variance to permit 6 parking spaces within the front yard of Cottage Place, partially within the public right-of-way. 13 parking spaces were required by ordinance at the time, but the applicant proposed the 6 spaces that exist now within that public right-of-way. The 2001 approval allowed for counseling offices both on the first floor and the second floor for Family and Children's Services of North Essex, with that 1 apartment on the third floor remaining. Then in 2013, my firm was hired. We were hired to convert the first floor from the counseling offices to a dental office for a different dentist than the one that we're here with tonight. So in 2013, the planning board approved the conversion of the first floor into a dental office while converting the second floor back to an apartment. The third floor residential unit remained again. And then, as we heard, in 2016, Montclair Dental Spa moved in. Next slide, please. Okay. Next slide. So these are 2 photographs from Google Earth Street View. The photo on the left is the existing front elevation of the building as seen from Claremont Avenue, and the photo on the right is the view of the house or the building looking from the southwest along Cottage Place. So in the photo on the right, you could see the existing asphalt paved parking that was approved in 2001 that sits partially within the public right-of-way. In other words, off of their property and onto the Cottage Place right-of-way. And you could note in this photo that the barrier-free parking stall is all the way on the right or on the south side of the property and not aligned with the sidewalk that leads to the current wheelchair lift that provides barrier-free access to the first floor dental office. Next slide, please. This slide is a proposed site plan. So the applicant is seeking approval to continue the use of the second floor as staff offices plus the kitchen and staff lounge for the dental practice. As recommended at the Development Review Committee that we first went to several months ago, the proposal is to move the 6 parking spaces out of the public right-of-way about 5 feet to the east, in other words, 5 feet towards North Fullerton Avenue, even though this situation or this arrangement was approved by the planning board in 2001. So it was recommended to get these out of the right-of-way, which we're proposing to do. And then we're proposing a new stall, number 7, where I'm pointing to, creating that further to the north, since there's an existing utility pole and a guy wire in this stretch of lawn here. So we're proposing a new parking stall, number 7, that would leave a lawn area of 14 feet to separate parking stalls 6 and 7. So stall 7 would have a sign placed directly in front of it in the center of the space stating doctor's parking. So this would be a space that would be reserved for perhaps Dr. Musa, who's the owner of this facility. Additionally, new landscaping would be installed to visually screen new parking stall number 7 from Claremont Avenue. So part of this proposal is to remove all of the asphalt paving that was installed after the 2001 approval and to replace it with permeable pavers. And on the bottom right of the slide, you could see the image of the pavers that we selected and we showed to the Historic Commission, and they were generally in favor of the appearance of those pavers and the fact that they're permeable to allow water to drain through the joints of the pavers. Also, the stripes between each of the parking stalls would be created by the use of either black or dark gray pavers to create the striping. And then the ADA logo that's shown on this site plan would also be created by the use of pavers or worst case painted onto the parking space. A new concrete public sidewalk will connect the existing public sidewalk from the Immaculate Conception lot all the way down to the corner of Cottage Place and Claremont Avenue. The applicant will continue to lease the 8 parking stalls from Immaculate Conception. And you can see the 8 parking stalls that are currently leased on the site plan. The part of this proposal includes creating a new gate in the chain link fence that separates this subject property from the Immaculate Conception property. So currently the staff of Montclair Dental Spa who park in the Immaculate's parking lot have to walk around to the gate in the driveway of the parking lot to the sidewalk and then walk over and to the rear entrance, which is the main entrance to the dental office. So the proposal is to put a gate in that chain link fence and create a new 4-foot wide permeable paver path from the Immaculate's parking lot to the rear of this subject building. We're also proposing a bike rack. Some patients can come or will come to this facility by bicycle, or staff can do the same. So we're proposing a 5 bicycle bike rack where I'm pointing with the laser pointer currently. Next slide.
Paul,
please.
before you do that, just a quick question regarding the proposed gate in the fence there. That's the fence is owned by Immaculate Conception, right?
On the site plan, it's shown on this subject property.
Oh, where you're proposing to put the gate?
The fence is shown on this property.
Oh, okay, so it's,
I'm sorry, I take that back. There's a fence along the easterly side that's on this subject property, but then the fence as it goes across the southern side is just towards onto the Immaculate Conception property. So we're proposing a gate in the Immaculate Conception fence.
which would require the approval of Immaculate Conception, right? And do you know whether that approval's been obtained yet?
I do not know.
So it would be conditioned upon that, and if Immaculate Conception, were to not approve that, how would that impact this, other than that you wouldn't have a gate there?
Right, if Immaculate Conception did not approve the gate, then the staff would have to continue to walk around to the public sidewalk on Cottage Place.
The way they currently do?
Correct.
Would you still put the walkway there?
No.
If there was no gate?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so slide number 7, next slide, Kristen. So there's an existing wood trash and recycling enclosure that I'm pointing to at the south side of the property that's to remain and be repaired. When I last looked at it, some of the wood was damaged and it needs to be repaired. Trash pickup is coordinated with the township, so the township actually picks up trash from that enclosure along Cottage Place. Arrangements for disposal of medical waste are handled privately by the applicant and is not in that enclosure. There's existing landscaping existing landscaped areas and the existing trees as shown in this drawing. Those are proposed to remain. And then, as I stated, we're also indicating 6 new shrubs to visually screen the new parking stall number 7 from Claremont Avenue. So we're proposing 3 black haw viburnums and 3 inkberry shrubs on the north side of parking stall number 7. With the reconfiguration of this parking area by creating these spaces out of permeable pavers and moving it 5 feet into the property, we're relocating the barrier-free parking space. As I indicated, it currently exists all the way at the south side of the property, so someone in a wheelchair would have to get into the wheelchair and wheel from that south side and make their way over to the rear entry of the building. So we're relocating the barrier-free parking space and the access aisle to be on line with the sidewalk at the rear of the building, to make it easier to access the building and to get to the wheelchair lift. The as far as impervious coverage, so we're proposing to remove an existing sidewalk that runs from where I'm pointing with the laser pointer. It runs from there along the west side of the building. It will be necessary once the parking area is reconfigured, so we're removing that. And the existing impervious coverage is 43.1%, but we're adding 171 square feet of impervious coverage by creating this new path to Immaculate's parking lot plus stall number 7, minus the sidewalk that we're removing. So we're resulting in a net increase of 171 square feet of impervious coverage. We comply with building lot coverage. We're 25.7% and 40% is allowed. As far as impervious coverage, 70% is allowed, and we're at 45.3%. Next slide, please. This slide shows the existing basement floor plan and the existing first floor plan. So no changes are proposed to these 2 floors. As Tristan said, the basement is primarily used for storage, and also some of the tanks for the equipment for the first floor are located in the basement. The first floor contains the dental office, the dental practice, and as you can see from the floor plan, patients enter from the rear of the building or the south side of the building. They either go up the steps to the rear waiting room, or they could take the wheelchair lift up to this platform to enter the waiting room. There's the reception area. There's a barrier-free accessible treatment room. Then there's 3 treatment rooms at the front northwest side of the first floor. There's a private office, a lab, and a barrier-free bathroom on this first floor. There were questions before about accessing the 3rd floor apartment. The apartment resident enters from the rear of the building, so there's a rear entry which is on the east side of the building, which leads to a stairway that leads up to the 2nd and 3rd floor of the building. Next slide, please. This slide is the 2nd floor plan and the 3rd floor, which is also referred to as the attic floor plan. The 2nd floor plan, no physical changes have been made. We had measured this building in 2013, then went for the previous dentist, and then went back again 6 months ago to look at the space again. So no physical changes. The kitchen was the kitchen for the apartment. The space that's labeled staff lounge, education and training, that was the large dining room, living room. There's an existing bathroom with a shower. There's 1 bedroom in the center of the west side of the building. That's Tristan's office, the office manager's office. There's a small staff lounge, which was another bedroom, and then there's a digital lounge. That was where a 3rd bedroom was on the 2nd floor. So no physical changes were made. Equipment was brought into this digital lab. But yeah, that's as this was as an apartment, except it's being used by the dental practice as a sort of an ancillary space for the first floor dental practice. The 3rd floor, that's existed as to my recollection. It's been like this for many, many years, that 3rd floor apartment. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. It's accessed by that main stairway that's from the rear east side entrance to the building. Okay. Next slide, please. This slide, on the left side, I just showed the existing lighting plan. There are several existing light fixtures on the site, and those are to remain. There's several wall-mounted floodlights. There's a few residential-style wall-mounted light fixtures at the entries. And then there's there's two lampposts at the front walkway facing Claremont Avenue. And those have been there for quite a long time. As far as zoning goes, as I said, the application is to get approval for this second floor use of the building, to legalize the use as a medical office from the previous residential use. The applicant's already been occupying this space, and as Mr. Tremedak stated, they never sought approval to move their business use up to that second floor. As I stated earlier, residential use mixed with professional office use is permitted as a conditional use in this OR3 zone, subject to those three conditions: that the number one, building facades and front yard areas shall have a residential appearance; number two, residential uses are not permitted on the first floor; and three is that off-street parking shall be equal to that required for either the residential use or the non-residential use, whichever is greater. So as far as the conditions, we don't comply with the third condition, the fact that the medical use requires 19 parking stalls. The residence only requires 1.8 or 2 stalls, so we have to use the greater of those two numbers. So the greater number is 19, and there's 7 on-site parking stalls with this proposal, plus the 8 spaces leased from Immaculate, which provides a total of 15 spaces. So there's a deficiency of 4 spaces. So 19 are required, and we're providing 15. The site plan requires variances for several existing conditions, including the building height, front yard setback both on Claremont Avenue and Cottage Place, parking within a front yard, and then parking setback from a property line. Those are 4 existing conditions that required variances. Those are existing. They will remain. Parking within a front yard is, as I stated, as of 2001, the approval granted. New variances are created by the addition of parking stall number 7, and according to Montclair Code 34765, no off-street parking shall be provided in the front yard. So that's a front yard parking space because it's located between the building and Cottage Place. And the minimum setback for parking areas from the property line shall be 3 feet. This is not set back 3 feet from the property line. And then Montclair Code 281-9D, like in David, all parking spaces shall be accessed by aisles with a minimum width of 24 feet. So there is no parking aisle. The parking arrangement that was established in 2001 set up this parking with no aisle. The cars back right up onto Cottage Place. Since there is the parking deficiency, but based on the ordinance, we did make the effort to provide 1 additional parking space on site, which is this new space number 7. Additionally, there are site plan waivers that are asked for with this application. 9-foot by 19-foot parking stalls are required in Montclair, and 5 of the parking stalls are 8 foot 6 inches wide. We reviewed this at the Development Review Committee. The consulting engineer thought the 6-inch deficiency in width is pretty reasonable, and it's also fairly common in Montclair. It's a commonly requested waiver and is typically granted. Sure.
Aren't they existing, those spaces?
We're reconfiguring them.
Okay.
Right. So by reconfiguring, restriping, and putting in the permeable pavers, we have the waiver for the width of the spaces. As far as the conditional use variance, which is the main variance that's being sought here, the proposed development requires what's known as a D3 variance for a deviation from the conditional use standards. So in order to grant the D3 variance, both positive and negative criteria must be satisfied. So courts have found that imposing the same standards to a D3 conditional use variance that would be applied to a D1 non-conforming use variance is inappropriate. So this was established by Coventry Square versus Westwood. They established at the time a middle path between a permitted use and a prohibited use, but found that the conditional use is actually closer to a permitted use than a prohibited use. And the reasoning behind this was that the governing body determined that the use in the D3 variance is appropriate to the zone in which it's located. However, it's subject to conditions, and in this case, there were the 3 conditions. So I'll start with the positive criteria. So the conditional use applicant, we have to show that the site will accommodate the problems associated with use, even though the proposal doesn't comply with the conditions that the ordinance established. Particularly, we're looking at condition 3, which is the parking deficiency of 4 parking spaces. We're proposing this, with the new configuration, there's still a deficiency of 4 spaces, even though the applicant has obtained several years in the past and currently leases 8 parking spaces from the adjoiner, the Immaculate Conception parking lot. The medical parking requirement for the second floor use is a zoning requirement of 9 spaces, but in this case, the users of the first floor will also be using the second floor. So it'll be the same people who work on the first floor who will be using the second floor, with the exception of the gentleman who testified earlier, Tristan, the office manager. If we look at one additional person, so there's an additional requirement of 1 parking space for the office manager. Everyone else using the second floor is already working on the first floor. So this is basically amenity space, or, training space for the first floor workers. It was my understanding that patients are not brought up to the second floor. Tristan testified that occasionally they will be brought up to the digital lab to look at images that were taken of their teeth. But however, there are no treatment rooms on the second floor. So even though there's a zoning requirement of 9 spaces based on 1 space per 150 square feet for medical, realistically, the actual need is probably 1 parking space for the office manager. There's no increase or intensification of the dental practice. It's the same number of treatment rooms and dentists, no increase in patient volume. My opinion is that the variance could be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. The Montclair Planning Board approved the current on-site parking arrangement in 2001. However, we're improving the appearance of that. I think it's a pretty unattractive asphalt paved area that encroaches into the public right-of-way. We're doing the best we can to move it onto this subject property, remove that asphalt paving, and replace it with attractive pavers, and calling for a new public sidewalk. And as I said, as to the parking deficiency, the second floor will be used by people who work on the first floor, except for the office administrator. So the third floor, as Tristan testified, is leased to one of the office employees, but that still has a parking requirement of 1.8 spaces, even though 1 person lives there. As far as the negative criteria, the deviations from the conditional use standard do not cause substantial detriment to the public good, and they do not impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. In my opinion, there'll be no substantial detriment to the public good or impairment of the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. Parking is adequate for the proposed use based on the fact that the majority of the second floor will be used by employees who work on the first floor. Based on my observation, I checked what I looked at in 2013 and then compared it today to see the parking spaces on the street. So there are 4 metered spaces directly in front of the subject property on Claremont Avenue. There are a total of 9 spaces on the east side of Cottage Place. 5 of them, the ones that are closest to the subject property, are often not used except for when school is picked up, when pickup for Immaculate at 3 p.m. Seems like many of the spaces on Cottage Place are occupied by vehicles, but at other times, the 5 spaces on Cottage Place closest to the subject property are usually empty. Then there's additionally 1 non-metered space on Claremont Avenue, just west of Cottage Place. In 2013, 15 in my notes, there were 4 spaces, but for some reason, there's only 1 now. There's also 5 metered spaces on the west side of North Fullerton Avenue near the corner of Claremont. In my opinion, the existing front yard parking will be aesthetically improved, and the additional front yard parking space will be visually screened from Claremont Avenue by the new landscaping. So I believe that we satisfy the conditions for the conditional use. In my opinion, there's approximately 15 parking spaces within a very short walk of this property, as I just stated. We've got the 4 parking meters in front with, that are 2-hour meters. The sign says the meters are good from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. There's no parking on the north side of Claremont Avenue, which is this side of the street where we're sitting. There's the 1 parking space on Claremont Avenue to the west of Cottage Place. There's a sign in front that says 2-hour parking from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. That space is usually empty the few times I've looked. And then there's 5 spaces on Cottage Place closest to this property, all without meters. And then the 5 metered spaces on the west side of North Fullerton near the corner of Claremont. So that totals 15 spaces within a very short walk of this subject property, including the 4 spaces on Claremont directly in front.
Okay. That's it. Paul, did you or someone from your office appear before the Historic Preservation Commission?
I appeared before the Historic Preservation Commission.
Okay, and you've seen the report that was issued by the commission?
Yes, I did.
All right,
I have it in my possession.
And just, without reading it, what was the commission's comment? What were the commission's comments related to this application?
Basically, they agreed that the site plan is compatible and harmonious. They recommended that the Board of Adjustment grant variance relief from the parking requirements, as the second floor being used as staff offices should not increase the number of patients visiting the dental practice. They suggested eliminating parking space number 7, and by eliminating parking space number 7, they recommended adding more landscaping to screen the parking area north of space number 6. As I stated, we're still showing parking stall number 7 because we recognize there is a deficiency of parking. This is one space that a parking space could fit. Historic Commission did not like the visual appearance of parking stall number 7.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you to review the board engineer's report, but you and I have both reviewed that prior to this meeting. And I think we can confirm, Mr. Chairman, that to the extent that the engineer's comments have not already been addressed, that we will address all of his comments, comply with any drainage, stormwater management issues, anything else in his report.
Right, we agreed to address all of his comments that have not been satisfied to date in writing.
Okay, I have nothing further for Mr. Sionis. Thank you.
Mr. McCullough, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Sionis, can you tell us the lawn area that is on the southern side of this building? How is that utilized?
It's not utilized. It's just a rear yard that's not utilized. It's a maintained grass area. I actually looked at, could we fit parking back there, but it's too narrow. So I understand when the engineers that designed the space on Cottage Place probably also looked at that rear yard, and it's not deep enough to have pull-in parking spaces.
Yeah, so that you anticipated my question. So.
I looked at that. That's the first, because
Yeah.
first thing I looked at was, could we get rid of those spaces along Cottage Place
Right,
and put them in the rear
there
yard?
would be no way to have them running horizontal to the 8 spaces in the Immaculate Conception.
No, the rear yard's not deep enough. The best we could do was getting 3 spaces along towards the easterly property line, but that would be pretty inefficient. They would still have to back out towards Cottage Place. And there's really only enough space to put 1 or 2 parking spaces to be able to back up, do a K-turn and back, pull out onto Cottage Place.
Okay. Okay, so I guess I'm satisfied with that. As far as the chairlift is used only to access the first floor of the building. There's no reason for a chairlift to access the second floor. Would that be
Correct. And prior to 2013, when we first looked at this building, there was a wood frame ramp across the back of the building. So sometimes, prior to our office being involved, that ramp was removed and then replaced with this chairlift. This chairlift just provides access, barrier-free access to the first floor dental office.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Church?
Looking at your handout, the attic floor plan doesn't show, only shows stairs going up, doesn't show any way out of it other than going back down those stairs. Am I correct? in thinking?
That's correct. There's just one central stairway.
Is that a safety? What if a fire? What if a fire takes off on the second floor? How do they get out of the apartment?
This is allowed by code. It's been, this apartment's, well, it's been a dwelling unit since 1870. For safety reasons, the windows could be replaced with what's known as egress windows, a window that a fire truck ladder could put a fire truck could put a ladder up to, and someone could get out through the window. Currently, there are no egress windows up there, though.
Is it possible to do that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Caulfield?
Congratulations on the merger, I guess.
Stressful.
Thank you. Just a hypothetical here. On the apartment on the third floor, if we made it a duplex to the second floor, would we have to go through this procedure?
This property has been approved previously for residential use on the second and third floor, but it was also approved previously for office use on the second floor from the original residential use. I'm not sure, would we have to go through this application if that, you're, so I understand, if it was a two-story apartment, correct?
I wouldn't be surprised that she might go downstairs and use the second floor. It's probably bigger than her top floor. Maybe she has a TV room down there or something.
Yeah, it's not anticipated to my knowledge. You know, they're using that second floor, like I said, for their lounge and staff training.
Yes, during their times of operations. But
Yes.
this is maybe evening time.
Oh,
period.
if someone would go downstairs to use that living room.
The person on the third floor.
Right.
Would you still go through this? Like,
I can't answer that.
The question is,
I mean, we're going through this application because the second floor was redone, or it was turned from office to now.
Residential, now residential to
yeah,
office.
Back to back,
Right.
yes.
but, again, I missed the question.
I just want to jump over this application and say, like, she goes downstairs, watches TV at 6 PM, and it's residential.
Well, I mean,
It's an interesting academic question, but that's not really what it's before.
I just want to, I mean, do we have to? is the
Yes.
question.
Maybe in 8 or 10 years, that will happen.
Ms. Harris?
Just the question that I had before, Mr. Sionis, to your knowledge, was a building permit required to make the conversion on the second
To
floor?
my understanding, a permit would be required to change the use from residential to office. Yes.
Okay. So will you do that retroactively pending this approval?
Assuming permits weren't obtained, we would certainly agree to that as a condition, that, we would apply for and obtain any necessary approvals from the building department. Yes. It's my understanding that, none of the walls were reconfigured. The existing kitchen is the same location, the bathroom's the same.
Right.
But, as Paul said, because of the change in the use, that there should be probably a permit application filed.
And I, unless Mr. Chairman knows, I don't know what prompted this application. Did they apply for a building permit and they were told to come here? Or, we don't, I was only contacted and said, we need to
Yeah.
file an application to the zoning board, can you help us?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened. I do know that this application did not result from any violation notices or anything being issued by the town. My client, I was contacted with questions as to whether they would need approvals to convert, and looked at the ordinance, and it triggers site plan approval and the change in the parking requirements. So I told them that site plan approval was required. I think the work had actually been commenced or maybe completed before.
But there was no work.
Well,
I mean,
right.
nothing changed on the second floor, except for the use of the space.
Except for the use.
And the piece of equipment in that digital lab that they brought up there, which was a bedroom.
Mr. Vieira?
The question I have is between the 6 parking space and the proposed 7th space, there's a lawn area, correct?
Yes.
And the reason for that is that there's a utility pole.
There's a utility pole with a diagonal guy wire that you cannot walk under or drive under. So that leaves us a 14-foot wide space that we're proposing to be a lawn area between parking stall number 6 and parking stall number 7.
And the utility pole does not interfere with the proposed sidewalk, correct?
Correct, it does not. The proposed curb cut stops just to the south of that utility pole.
Okay. And the other question I had is just to confirm, there is no proposed work for electrical work on the second floor or HVAC or anything in addition to what already is there?
Correct. No work is proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Simon?
Hi. Could you use parking space 7 as the handicap and then potentially gain a space back next to number 4? That way, because a handicap will have much less usage, which would be less obtrusive to people traveling on Claremont and just walking by, instead of having a doctor's car parked there all day, versus a handicap, which might see very limited usage.
Actually, I like that idea, because the handicap space has to be 8 feet wide, and you have to have an 8-foot wide access aisle next to it, and that 14-foot lawn area is not used for anything, and they can't pull into there.
Yeah. And the guide wire kind of prohibits, would be
Right.
perfect for the access aisles.
The only downside is for the person in the wheelchair, they would have to go back to the public sidewalk.
Well, no, because right now you said you have a curb that goes along the building. Oh, that cuts into the new space.
Right.
But couldn't you create a path in front of the parking spaces to the access to the elevator, to the ramp?
That could be done. We're trying to keep the additional impervious coverage under 250 square feet. Practically speaking, once you exceed 250 square feet, a civil engineer is required to provide storm drainage design. So we tried to avoid that with this application, but you're right. If we made space number 7 the barrier-free space, have the striped access aisle where the lawn area is, even if someone in a wheelchair can go along the sidewalk and then back to the wheelchair lift.
What if there's cars parked in all the spaces, though, Paul?
True, they wouldn't have the access, easy access to that sidewalk.
And the other question I had is, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that ADA required that the handicap space be located in, close proximity or closest proximity to
the barrier-free entrance.
To the entrance.
Right, and that's the what's bad about the current situation. The ADA space is the furthest one to the south. So we were trying to correct that by getting it online with the existing sidewalk at the rear of the building, which would provide easy access to the wheelchair lift.
How about if you moved it to space 6 with the,
Right, so in other words, if we move the barrier-free space to space 6, get
Yeah.
the,
Well, I was thinking just to
Yeah.
get,
an
instead of a
additional-
dedicated doctor's card that's going to be there all day,
get a space
Just to
that's
free that
hardly,
space.
that's not used very often.
excuse me?
A space that's not used very often, which
Right.
would be the barrier-free space. Yeah.
I mean, if you do the math or the
Yeah,
configuration.
I think you're almost there. I think it's a good idea.
And
Because
if you
the-
don't if you don't do the path from the high school parking lot to the back, that would save
Exactly, that
some
saves,
impervious.
yeah, it saves
Yeah.
like 200 square feet of permeable pavement, of impervious. And what the Historic Commission did not like about stall number 7 was seeing that space towards the front of the property.
So, yeah, that's all right, just something to consider.
It's a good idea.
Thank
and
you.
We could probably get there, just not right now.
Mr. Griffith?
I like the layout you have for the handicap space based on proximity for the handicap. I understand the point, but it's a subjective way of priorities. I think the code consistently would push you to put the handicap space directly adjacent to the entrance. But I have no other comments or thoughts. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the Historic Commission didn't like the proposed space 7. What is your view as to should or, without getting into the handicap part of it, whether that should or shouldn't be included?
I thought we were trying to gain another parking space in the least obtrusive way possible, and that was to create this space and have it dedicated or reserved for the doctor. We're trying to downplay that space by putting the landscaping between that and Claremont Avenue, recognizing that we cannot screen it from Cottage Place.
Going to the proposed walkway from the Immaculate Conception parking spaces, I guess I can, okay, so you have this narrow strip in between spaces 10 and 11. I'm not sure what that strip is supposed to do.
You're referring to on the Immaculate parking?
That's just dimension?
That's just a dimension line.
dimensioning? Okay.
It looks like a strip, but it's a dimension line.
My concern is if the cars in spaces 11 and 12 are parked relatively close to the line dividing them, which is not uncommon in the way side mirrors stick out, it may not be easy for people to get to that path. And I guess, have you given any consideration of that?
No, the only thing we did was, we're showing that the existing curbing on the Immaculate Conception property would be dropped down so that this path would be level with the Immaculate Conception paved parking area. But, yeah, our only consideration was that almost similar to a supermarket. You would have to, supermarket parking lot, you'd have to walk between cars or in front of the cars to get to this proposed path.
And I'm assuming that you haven't had discussions with Immaculate Conception about either the gate or the altering the curb.
Have you?
That hasn't happened yet, Mr. Chairman. It should have, but it was just overlooked.
And if we do, I don't know if you're going in this direction, but maybe we get
discuss making a wider striping between stalls 11 and 12 if that does not mess up the rest of their parking.
Maybe even if you did hairpin striping,
Right, and as you can see, parking stall number 8 is a wider stall. It's 11 feet wide, the stall all the way closest to Cottage.
no.
You know, maybe there's the possibility of,
That's probably partially because of the fence being, you
Hard
need to
to-
park a distance away from it to
You're right.
open your door.
all right.
Is it possible also to consider like a tandem parking in front of like maybe space 1 and shift the walkway for a vehicle that's going to be there the majority of the day and not move?
So create a tandem space at number 1, have one
Yeah.
parked in front of the other.
Instead of 7.
Right, and perhaps an employee who doesn't move their car all day is in the
Correct.
the new space
The
number 1.
tenant, the tenant who lives there who happens to work there.
Yeah.
Could you
Yeah.
just
You have to move the trash.
buy another parking space from the adjacent property and get rid of 7?
But the business has been, this business has been working since 2016, right?
So, you know, you
Yeah.
save the corner.
Right.
You see the historic district, my friend here,
Yeah,
his concerns are addressed. Is that?
right, I think the applicant could inquire through their attorney, perhaps, if they could purchase another space.
Yeah, we can certainly inquire. We can't,
Or the other option that Mr. Simon stated was to create 2 tandem spaces at space number 1. Shift the new path from Immaculate's parking lot to the rear of this building, further to the east, to the left, and create 1 parking stall for someone who would not be moving their car most of the time.
would that impact the trash enclosure?
We'd have
Paul?
to relocate the trash enclosure, but that,
And where's the gate going? Is that
The
where
gate
the
from-
walkway? The gate from?
From Immaculate's parking
Section,
lot?
Is that where that gate, where the walkway is? Between spaces 10 and 11?
Yeah.
11 and
That's a
12? So
current
the
gate
car
now?
would not inflict in that whatsoever? The second car in there?
the-
I mean, this business has been together for 2016 and been running since that time.
Correct.
It's gonna get tomorrow.
right. Right, I think the question is, do we need the parking stall number 7? I mean, we thought it was a fair solution to propose a space there, to provide at least 1 additional space. It's, you know, honestly, the least attractive space on the site. So we've discussed choices of creating tandem space at parking stall number 1, asking Immaculate, can we lease another space, or leave this as it is, as it's existed since 2016, recognizing that the second floor is only brought 1 additional staff member as far as parking needs go.
As an alternative approach, you indicated that the path from the Immaculate Conception parking area would be eliminated if you couldn't get the gate and the
Yes.
drop curb. If that occurs, then doesn't the tandem parking space, you don't have the issue of it affecting,
The access to
Yes.
the Immaculate's parking lot, correct.
you know, if we impose that as a condition, that in the event you don't get that
Access.
pedestrian access, that you would do that tandem space and move the trash enclosure? You know, I mean, you just
Yeah,
have
I-
to move it to,
I think that's good. I think the tandem space lets us keep the barrier-free space as it's shown on the drawings with the striped access aisle on line with the rear sidewalk leading to the wheelchair lift. I think that's a good condition to impose, so that if we don't get the approval from Immaculate for the drop curb and the gate, then we indicate a tandem space in conjunction with space number 1, and relocate the trash enclosure, which is basically just a wood fence and a gate.
Other comments, questions from the board?
I mean, I think there's a question about whether or not all these spaces are in fact used by the staff, and, I mean, do all the staff drive?
Tristan?
I mean, it may not be as big of an issue as it appears on the surface.
Well, hopefully they'll be bringing their bicycles once this is installed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, as the manager, do you know, does everybody have a?
Not everybody drives.
Not everybody drives.
Some people get dropped off. Some people take Ubers.
I mean, I think there certainly could be a case made for just eliminating space number 7 altogether, you know?
Right.
And there will be exceptions anyway, so.
I mean, I was there on a Saturday morning, and most, but not all, I'd say there were probably 3 or 4 empty spaces, and I assume that's one of their busiest times. Okay. Any other questions from members of the board? Any members of the audience who have questions or comments on this application? Okay. Mr. Tremblack, anything you want to say before we discuss?
No, I have no further questions. I think I'm reading the board correctly. I think the board sees it, as this is a good application. We're correcting a lot of issues. We're creating a better situation. We're providing as much parking as we possibly can. I think, combined with the on-street parking that's available, there's adequate parking for this use. The other variances for front yard parking and the setback are essentially pre-existing conditions, which we're, in some respects improving in terms of the replacement of asphalt paving with the permeable pavers, pushing parking spaces further into the property, and all the other improvements that Mr. Sonis described. So I believe this is a good application and one that should be approved with the conditions that we've discussed, including applying for any required permits from the building department, compliance with the engineer's report, and whatever other conditions the board ultimately decides to impose with respect to the parking spaces.
Okay, we'll start discussion. Mr. McCullough.
Yeah, I'm in support of the application. I think with the concessions of Mr. Tremblack that they'll agree with the recommendations from the engineering department. I think it's a good application, and basically I think I would be in agreement with the application as it's presented, with the exception of space number 7 that I would say just eliminated.
Mr. Church.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of the application also as presented with the concurrence with my colleague of eliminate number 7, and be sure that on the 3rd floor apartment that an egress window is put in order for the fire department to be able to remove anyone caught in a fire. Otherwise, I'd be in favor of the application.
Mr. Caulfield.
I'm in favor. I'm also a big proponent of sidewalks, and I'm not sure if I would be a big proponent of having a sidewalk here because, I don't know if I want people walking on this side. I do understand what sidewalks are and all that stuff, but I don't know. I just don't want people wanting you to walk across all this traffic or the cars that are parked there. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
I'm in favor of the application. I'm indifferent about parking space number 7. Keep it or not, it's fine.
Mr. Vieira?
I'm also in favor of the application with the exception of the parking 7. I think we should get rid of it. Thank you.
Mr. Simon?
Yeah, I'm also in favor. I'd like to see you explore what can be done with 7, either as handicapped or relocated, but I'm in favor.
Okay, Mr. Griffith, you get to discuss but not vote as the bottom alternate, and we have 8.
Understood. I support the proposal. I think essentially deleting space 7 is a good idea.
I'm also in favor. I think the applicant is improving an existing situation here. I don't think space 7 is needed or desirable. I think the reality is if whatever circumstances change that they need more parking, they'll go and talk to Immaculate Conception and do that. I'm not sure, the reality of the spaces on Fullerton is ever since paper planes appeared, they're full a lot of the time is what I would say. And, the parking on Cottage is variable based on what's going on in the church and what's going on in the school, and sometimes it's empty and sometimes it's very occupied. If you go on a Saturday morning that they're having a funeral, there are a lot of cars, and other days there's, virtually no one. I think they've demonstrated the reasons in support of the conditional use variances they need, and in support of the bulk variances. They're making the condition better. I think the reality in terms of the sidewalk is that area is going to have to be paved. It's going to have to be hard surface because of the driveway, and that the little stretch between the end of the parking and Claremont, if someone's gone that far, there might as well be a sidewalk. So let me go through conditions that they continue to maintain at least 8 spaces in the Immaculate Conception parking lot, and that all 8 spaces be marked consistent with the current signage, that they eliminate the proposed space 7, that they either obtain or discover they can't obtain permission from Immaculate Conception to drop the curb and provide a gate in the fence. That the staffing be no more than 2 dentists at one time and no more than 7 other staff at any one time, which I think fits in what they indicated would be the maximum. That there be no treatment rooms on the 2nd floor. That the handicap space have all the appropriate signage, that they adhere to the conditions of the engineer's report. I love it when I can't read my own writing that I wrote 2 minutes ago. I don't know what we want to do while I'm trying to figure out about the tandem space, if they can't do the walk, or just leave that to them as to deal with. That if any construction permits were necessary for the work that was done on the second floor, that they be obtained. Oh, and the egress window on the
Third floor.
third floor for the third floor apartment be provided. Okay, any other comments or questions or conditions anyone wants to say before we vote? Okay. I'm going to call the roll. I think it's clear, but let's...
We need a motion.
Motion to approve the conditions as stated by the chair.
All right, Chair Harrison,
Yes.
Vice Chair McCullough,
Yes.
Mr. Caulfield,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Viera.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. No, I know. Is it okay? I was wondering, to make sure it wasn't.
I need to notice, I found the other one the instant so I'm assuming I'll find this one shortly after you hand me this one. The next application is that of Mercury Montclair LLC for property at 26 Orange Road. The property is located in the R2 two-family zone and is designated on the Montclair tax maps as Block 1405, Lot 13. The applicant is seeking site plan approval and a variance to permit the property to be used as a four-family dwelling, whereas Montclair Code Section 347-47 does not permit multifamily dwellings in the R2 zone. A variance of Montclair Code Section 347-101 to permit 0 parking spaces on the property, whereas the ordinance requires 8 or more parking spaces. Taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Trembulac, want to give your appearance?
Yes, good evening again. Alan Trembulac, appearing on behalf of the applicant Mercury Montclair LLC. This application involves property located at 26 Orange Road, which is located on the west side of Orange Road between Bloomfield Avenue and Hillside School. It's directly across from the parking entrance for the MC Hotel. This is an interesting property. I mean, if you're coming off of Bloomfield Avenue, you have the gas station on the corner, and then you've got a row of, I don't know how many properties, which I believe are all narrow lots with, residential structures. And then when you get to 26, it's a similarly sized lot that has an existing 3-story building that's actually been historically utilized as a mixed-use property, which is sort of an aberration on the block. It's also not consistent with the zoning on the block, which is an R2 two-family zone. It's a 30-foot wide lot with a 3-story building. The building essentially occupies the entire property with the exception of an open area or yard in the rear. There's no parking, there's no driveway, there's no parking on the site. I don't believe there ever has been any parking on the site. Currently, the building is non-conforming. It's a non-conforming mixed use with office space on the first floor and 3 residential apartments on the second and third floor. My client would like to eliminate the first floor office space and replace it with a 3-bedroom apartment. By doing so, we would basically replace the non-conforming office use with a fourth apartment, which would still be non-conforming in that there would be a total of four dwelling units in a two-family zone. However, we think it's more consistent with the zoning in that it's replacing an office use with a residential use in a residential zoning district. There's no parking presently available, and one of the benefits of converting the space it's a slight reduction in the parking demand for the property. The office space would require 5 parking spaces. The 3-bedroom would require essentially 3. So again, we're seeking a use variance to permit the property to be utilized as a 4-family dwelling. We also need a parking variance because, again, there is no parking, there never has been, even though we would be reducing the parking demand for the property, there's still a parking variance required. In addition, we need site plan approval because the site plan ordinance requires that if you're increasing the number of dwelling units, it triggers site plan review. There's not much we have to present in the way of a site plan, but we have submitted a site plan, which will be discussed by my second witness, William Stimmel, who will discuss the site plan and also provide planning testimony in support of the variances that we're seeking. And my first witness, who's sitting to my right, is my client. I'm going to mispronounce her first name, Jae-rong. Close enough?
Good enough.
Chang,
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
All right, so I ask that Ms. Chang be sworn.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth of the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address.
My name is Jae-rong Chung. I live in 331 Lafayette Avenue, Chatham, New Jersey, 07928.
Okay. And Ms. Chung, you're one of the members of Mercury Montclair LLC?
Yes, I am. Mercury Montclair LLC is 2 members, my husband and I, each 50/50.
Okay. And your LLC is the owner of the property at 26 Orange Road, correct?
Correct.
And when did you purchase the property?
2016.
Okay. How is the building being utilized at the time you acquired it?
Originally in 2016, the 3rd floor is already 2 residential units. The 1st and 2nd floor, it used to be 2 commercial spaces. So then the tenant left in 2018, I believe. Then we renovated, and then I took over 1st floor for my accounting practice, and the 2nd floor is rented out to a cleaning company. Then after the COVID, the cleaning company could go bankrupt. That's what he told me. So we converted the 2nd floor to a residential. We submitted the drawing and everything last year, and we get the building, fire, plumbing, all the approval with the final approval. So now the 2nd floor is by itself, is this apartment. The 2nd floor is a residential right now. So with the 1st floor converting to residential at this point, my understanding is I do need the board approval, not just, submitting the drawings anymore.
Right. So you applied for the permits and received the permits and approvals to convert the 2nd floor from a commercial use to a 3rd apartment?
Yes.
Okay. And now we're seeking to convert the 1st floor to a 4th apartment. Is that correct?
Correct.
By the way, do you still occupy the 1st floor office space?
I do.
Your
I
accounting?
still occupy the 1st floor.
Okay. Can you explain why it is you're seeking to convert the 1st floor to a residential apartment?
Well, as my kids go older, I will no longer desire to grow my practice anymore. Not only not to grow my practice, I'm actually getting smaller, so then, so like, I just don't need the space anymore. It's like a huge space. And then like with like the remaining clients, I could just work off-site. And then like, so I haven't been to my office in like 6 months right now, so it just, I just don't use it anymore.
Okay, but why convert it to an apartment?
We try to, I asked a real estate agent and try to see, can we rent it out as like office? But like my response is like, it's very hard because like there's no parking in that area. And then also, it's just like when we were renting out the second floor, it took over 6 months to rent it out, like back then. That's before COVID. And then like my real estate agent told me after COVID, office space is just even harder to rent it out. So that's why we are looking to ask if we could convert it to apartment.
Okay. By the way, you have no parking. Do you know where your current tenants park their vehicles, if they have any?
I don't know if they have vehicles. I know they're all local residents and then they all work locally. If they do need parking, like the parking lot, there's a public parking lot directly across the street. So I know it's like pretty easy because I park my car there when I go to the office. So it's very easy to find a parking space there. And also at night, there's like plenty of street parking as well.
And what about clients or other visitors to your office? Where would they park, or where do they park?
Most of them, they told me they park in the parking lot across from my building.
Okay. All right, you're not proposing to make any changes to the building other than to reconfigure the first floor and make it into an apartment?
Correct.
And that would be a 3-bedroom apartment, correct?
Correct.
Right, okay. No further questions for this witness.
Mr. McCulloch, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Chair.
Sure.
So the first floor, I mean, in terms of the existing plan that's before us, as opposed to the proposed plan, shows that you had 4 offices and a conference room, and so what happened to all those people? I know you said that as far as your situation was concerned, you haven't been back to this space, but all the staff that were in this space, they're all gone also, or?
So 2 of my staff, I used to have 1 manager and 2 staff, right? One of the staff got a job in KPMG, so I'm sure he's not looking forward to come back. One other staff, like, she's working for a law firm now as like accounting staff. The manager's still with me right now, but he also works from home most of the time. So like I think even him haven't been back to office probably in 3 months.
Okay. So, and just also in line with the question from Mr. Tremblak about parking, where did they park when they were there?
I know like one of my staff park on the street because like we get in pretty early, like 8:30, so it's very easy to find street parking. And then like one of the my other staff, like he come in with a train, so he just walked from the train station. It's like a 10-12 minute walk, he told me, so it's not like a very far distance. And then like I guess like me and my 2 staff, one staff park in the street. I typically come in a little bit later, I park in the parking lot. And then like the other staff, sometimes she park in the parking lot, sometimes she park on the street, I guess depending on what time she gets in that day. And like one of the staff, like he just walked from the train station.
Mm-hmm. So how has the situation in that area changed from your perspective as a result of the MC Hotel going in there? Now there's this new residential building that's just been opened, and the parking lot access is also now on Orange Road. I mean, has that sort of changed how you fundamentally sort of see this building and its functionality?
No. I mean, I don't see that hotel opening is a big impact on me. Like, it is a residential area. I mean, like, it seems like no one ever complained to me about any of the thing. I talk to the neighbors when I see them, but no one talked to me about. I think like, yeah, I mean, like, the hotel have their own parking too, I believe. So, I never heard, I don't know. That's the best answer.
Okay.
Like, no one ever say, hey, the hotel's opening up, so we get a lot of noises or anything. I never heard anything like that.
Okay. And nothing in terms of the sort of desirability or the, yeah, of the location, you know, I mean, because you're talking about converting this into residential space. And so, you don't anticipate that it will be difficult to get somebody to rent this?
I never thought of it, but I think there is a lot of, from my understanding is, there's like a lot more residential needs compared to commercial needs in the area. So I don't think it would decrease the desirability.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The third floor, you said there are 2 apartments up there?
Yes, it was, when I bought it was already 2 apartments. One is 1 bedroom, one is 2 bedroom.
Okay.
So I didn't do anything with those.
And so they continue to be in that same configuration?
Correct.
And they're both rented at this point?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And the second floor is what?
Second floor, we just complete the renovation. It's not last year, it's like the year before. We finished the renovation in October 2022, right? So we rented out in January 23. It was last year. Oh, okay, we finished our renovation in October 2023. Yes, because she just literally had 1 year lease there, so she's finishing up a lease. Her lease is up December 31st this year. Yes, so I mean, after a month and a half, we rented out the second floor, even though it's like, I think it's a low season because we finished in October. So, yeah.
And that is a 3-bedroom unit?
That is 3 bedroom and 1.5 bathroom, I think, yeah.
You think, or you know? I mean, what is it?
I don't know how she used it, because I know like she used one of the room as like.
You designed it as a 3-bedroom?
Yes, yes,
like,
yes.
is what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
So now, on this first floor, what, I mean, just given sort of the layout, and I know that there was a question about sort of the bedroom 1 facing sort of the hotel, and the question about privacy and all of that, but it just, what's your rationale for why this should be a 3-bedroom unit as opposed to a 2-bedroom unit, especially when I'm sort of looking at the drawing and I see this kitchen, living room, dining area, which seems to be rather small in comparison to the rest of the unit. So it begs the question of, shouldn't there be a real living room as opposed to the dining area? And so therefore, it would posit having 2 bedrooms as opposed to 3 bedrooms. That's
this
sort of the
one.
question.
I would agree to that, yeah.
I mean, like, the living room, that room is a decent size, the living room itself. It's not particularly small. With like the kitchen area, like I mean, like the 1 bedroom, I don't know about like the privacy, because like in all apartments, they all have like, one of the room is facing the hotel anyway. So, I mean, this is not like an exception that this particular unit have like a bedroom that is facing the hotel. I mean, like to the size of the room, I mean, that is a decent sized room, but I mean, like, I mean, my architect designed it, and then he think like it would be better to have like that room as like if people have like more use of it if they wanted to. If they don't want to use it as a bedroom, I mean, it's like a room perfectly fine if they want to use it as like a reading room or sunroom, because like the sun is like really nice on that room too.
Mr. Tremble, do you have another witness that's going to talk about the design?
Unfortunately, the architect cannot be
Okay,
here
so-
tonight,
Well,
but
I mean, just based on what's presented to us, I mean, certainly the appearance of, okay, there's a two-seater, and then there's a round table and 4 chairs, doesn't lend itself to the perception that there's sufficient space to say this is sort of like a living room, as it traditionally would be defined. And so it just, to me, raises a question of whether or not this space is better utilized as a 2-bedroom as opposed to a 3-bedroom. That's sort of, it's perhaps a personal opinion, but nonetheless, that's how I sort of see this space.
Mr. McCullough, I think it would be helpful to have the architect testify here. There's some discrepancies with the plan, and that doesn't match the elevation. And I'd like someone to speak to that before.
Well, again, the architect unfortunately couldn't be here. We're hopeful it wouldn't need her, the testimony from the architect. If it's essential, we'd have to come back.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the plan matches the elevation. There's 2 doors shown on the facade, and there's 1 shown on the plan. There's 5 windows on the first floor. There's only a set of 3.
Right.
The 2 doors, because like the first and second floor, there is like 2 entrances in the building. The first and second floor is using like, I'll say the right door, and then like the 3rd floor, they use the left door. So like they all have their own entrance to the facade.
But it should still be on the plan, even if they don't use it. And the windows are missing. So it's unclear if the plan is actually reflective of,
Yeah, the floor plan doesn't show the second door.
right.
Right.
Oh.
Or the stairwell,
Which is
frankly, for...
Yeah.
So the door to the left goes up to the 3rd floor, is what
Yeah.
you're saying? And the door to the right services the 1st and 2nd floors?
Yes.
And what about on the back side of the house, the building? Is that the same? Because there's it shows that there's the white door, and does that white door service just the 1st floor, or the 1st floor and the 2nd floor?
Only the 1st floor.
Okay, and then there's a stairwell that seems to be hidden behind somewhat of a column on the left?
The stair is coming from, so in the back, there is like 2nd floor has a deck. The 3rd floor also have a deck. And then from the deck, you could go down through the stairs.
All the way up
go
to the 3rd floor. Okay, and just one last question for you, for me anyway, and that is what is your intent for updating the back of the property?
So originally, like we have it like pasted with like cement, but I think like over the years the grass like go through it. I already talked to like a landscaper to see if we could just like clean out all like the rocks and everything, and then just put grass on it. And then like the only thing is, if I'm gonna put grass on it, like how my landscaper is gonna come back to do it, maybe I could go back to cement. I mean, like I talked to several landscapers, and then like different people give different opinions. But of course, like this one, I'm very open to the back, like whatever is good for the town.
Because there would be no way for the landscaper to bring equipment to the back, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Other than through the,
East,
right, which no one will. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Church?
Yeah, I want to get to a question of the parking again. The residents that live there in the 2nd floor, where do they park?
I don't know if they have a car. I don't ask my tenant if they have a car. So even if they need to park, there is a parking across the street.
Okay, let me ask you this. The parking lot across the street is fee, right? It's a fee lot. So your tenant would have to be willing to pay a monthly fee or yearly fee to park there.
We charge a little bit below the market to put into consideration we don't have the parking.
You don't provide anything for them other than a lower rent because of the parking?
I mean, like, the tenant, when they look at the property, they know they don't have a parking. So, I mean, like, the rent, yes, reflected. I told them, like, this is like the rent.
What's the rate? Do you have an idea of the rate across it? Is it a lot?
For monthly?
Yeah,
I think it's like between $200 to $300.
a month.
I think so.
Okay, so the new resident, once you convert, would have to do the same thing. They'd have to park across the street, because these people are they're going to be there more than a workday. They're going to be there. So they're going to have to pay for parking across the street.
Actually, it's easier to find parking at night. So as I
At
count.
night, where?
On the street.
On the street.
Right,
okay.
because like right next to us, there is the school, right?
Right.
So during the daytime, it's actually, you cannot park there, but like after like 4 o'clock, I believe, like that parking comes up to be available. So like, and then like, I know street parking is more abundant during nighttime. So that's my observation when I was working there.
Okay, do you know the rate of, to park across the street?
The
At
rate-
that lot?
When I park a whole day, it's typically like $10.
Okay, you have the big parking lot next to the Board of Education.
I have a big park.
I think
This-
she's referring to
Across the
parking
street.
deck.
The parking
The
deck.
parking
The
deck.
deck, yeah. And that's, because when that was built, it was built for a car dealer. It wasn't built for parking. So it's been converted to parking,
Okay.
okay? Has it?
Yes.
So they can use that. And they can get a monthly rate there.
Yes, because when I park there, I pay $10 a day there to park there. Yeah.
That's always, to me, see, the problem in that area is always, I go down that street a lot, has always been the lack of parking along there. And to have to pay, to rent, or if you're going to rent these, you're not going to sell them, you're going to rent them, an apartment, and then have to pay additional for parking, something has to be reflected someplace where they get a break. Otherwise, you're just, if they have cars, they're up a creek, no place to park.
I think my rent, my one bedroom is only renting for $1,500.
Mhm.
I think that's low in Montclair.
Mhm.
My two bedroom is $1,800.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I do give a break to the tenant.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, so the parking across the street is available,
yes.
is what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Caulfield? Just one question. On the right side of the property, can you walk on, if you can't? They have fence there or something?
No, but
Okay.
my neighbor planted so many things there.
Okay.
Like during the summertime, there's like, during winter time when the plants like.
Yeah, you can go right
then
there.
maybe you
Okay.
can walk through, but during like spring and summer, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I guess more comments than anything. For the bedrooms, there need to be windows, there need to be egress windows in all of the rooms, so bedroom 2 isn't showing any. And I'm not sure, again, like, the plan doesn't really reflect the elevation, but I'm not sure the windows existing are good for egress because of how high they are. So that's something you're going to have to review with your architect. And we just need a kind of correct plan in order to review this properly. And then regarding the street parking, in Montclair, there's no parking overnight, 2 to 6. So that's not a great option for your residents to park overnight. And-
Mr. Vieira?
Question about the bedroom in the back, bedroom number 3. There's a mechanical room shown in the, do you know what that is?
I'm sorry?
There's a mechanical room in the 3rd bedroom in the back.
Oh, that is like the furnace.
That's the furnace.
Yeah.
And is there access to that piece of equipment? To like a door or?
There's a door.
There's a door, yeah.
Yes.
It's not reflected there.
Oh,
In the drawing. And then the door to the back, so that door has an access to the backyard, correct? Yeah, so, I mean, I do have a concern about basically egress with that door, but I don't think that's there's other comments about the front facade, there's, you know, the entrance, to the other apartment is not reflected, but did you consider also making this apartment only a 2-bedroom as opposed to a 3-bedroom?
2-bedroom? Sure, we could consider it, maybe converting like bedroom 2 with the living room, to make it bigger. I mean, I could have the bedroom 1, the wall go back a little bit, and then convert it bedroom 2 and the living room together. I mean, I think like the front room is really nice with all the sun coming in the morning.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Simon?
No questions.
Mr. Griffith?
I have a hard time looking at the architectural drawings and the photographs and connecting the dots between the two things. So, for instance, on the street side, there's the door to the left, but there's no door on the plan and the photograph. You should draw the door and the stair, I assume, that goes up. There's a window at hallway 2 between the door on the right of the other window and the photograph. It's not in the plan, shouldn't be in the plan. There's a discrepancy at the back of the building. At least when I look at the photographs, it looks like one flat wall with a deck and a stair. There's no deck drawn, there's no stair drawn, and the wall jogs. I sort of believe the photograph. Like I said, I cannot connect the dots between the photographs and the drawings. The other thing is in your the survey, this shows the property coming way back like this. The photograph doesn't. So I think the survey should match the photograph more accurately.
That going in is the stair to the other side, but like the apartment itself is straight.
Take a look at the photograph, I think. It's this photograph I'm talking about.
What page is the photograph?
Page 5.
Page 5 at the top of the page. You can see that the bend in the building tops happens, say, where the porch is, in the middle of the porch, but in front of the building. But in the site plan, the bend in the building happens way back into the building, or in the survey here. It doesn't align. It's not in the right place. This drawing doesn't have that joint in the right place.
The site plan is correct, you're saying?
This is not correct. If this photograph is accurate, or if there's something I can't see in this photograph that this is a ground floor, you see this line, right? And where the brick is, and it comes down in the middle of the awning, and if you look onto the site plan, you can see in a grade out to the left, they show the porch and the adjacent massing of the building. Do you mind if I point it out, come and show it to you?
I'm sure, yeah.
Well, is it on the?
Maybe it's nothing. Sorry.
Okay, you have to talk into a microphone.
Maybe it's nothing. There's a line here, see this, that's where the jog is?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can't-
isn't that right
Mr.
here?
Griffith, we
Yeah,
can't,
and you
excuse
see-
me.
Mr. Griffith, you have to talk into a microphone.
If they're gonna match. They don't match.
We can't hear you on the record.
Okay.
Okay.
The jog in the building on the site plan should match the photograph, I believe, which I can't see. You understand what I'm saying? You can see here, this is the covered porch. This is where this is happening. You can see it right here in the photograph. This drawing shows it way back here. So this needs to get corrected so it matches the reality.
Well,
And you understood the comments on the floor plan, right?
yeah, we understand that. I mean, just
Mr. Griffith, come back here and talk into a microphone, because the record has to hear this.
Just want to mention that the person who prepared the site plan is our next witness, who could, I'm sure, explain that or answer the question or explain.
Yeah, I apologize. I just wanted
It's okay.
to be sure you understood what I was trying to say.
Well, okay, could you have any more questions? Mr. Griffith, do you have?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Let me, Mr. Stimmel, we'll swear you in, but I want you to just nod at the moment. There appears to be, between the plan you prepared, which I assume was taken from the survey, and the architectural plans, show the building jogging in at two very different places. Do you agree with that?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Trembulac, I think there are a number of questions, some of which relate to windows and bedrooms. And I think it would be better for all of us if Mr. Stimmel and the architect and your client got together, whether virtually or in person, and agreed what's where there are and aren't windows, have the architectural plan show the door, have it reflect the windows where they are, and I think that will facilitate the discussion greatly as to what's going on and what we are willing to accept. And the other part of this is, which is more for your client, but maybe one of the witnesses have an idea as to what's going to happen in the backyard. The present condition is not an acceptable condition. There clearly is a problem with access for maintenance, and I want a specific proposal rather than maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that, as to what that's going to look at. It's not visible from Orange Road, but the neighbors on St. Luke's Place, I'm sure this is not what they most desire to see behind their backyards. And I just think that would be better, if you want to march on, but I think.
No, it's obvious from the questions of the board that we need to, review these issues. We need to get the architect involved and to respond and also, presumably appear to answer any other questions for the board. So, I think, given those comments and concerns, I think we should, adjourn the hearing, continue it at a future date, hopefully your first meeting in January, I guess, if there's room.
I just would also like for you to note for the architect to look at vents for the two bathrooms and for the kitchen. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I will add, and I'm not sure I want you to do anything, because it's probably not your client's fault, but I am somewhat intrigued as to how permits were issued for a third apartment in the building without having to come here.
kind of a curiosity of mine too, but I mean,
Maybe something I need to yell at other people for, who work in this building. But it would seem that should have come here.
well, I know my client told me earlier, I talked to her about this specifically, and I think you told me there was substantial dialogue with Mr. Sherwin about this.
There
But-
are people that, my architect and.
Okay,
But I was curious myself, Mr. Chairman, I understand.
So the application for 26 Orange Road by Mercury Montclair LLC is going to be carried to our January 15th meeting with no further notice. So if you're here for that, which I suspect no one is, but, we'll see you on January 15th. Same place, same time relatively. The meeting will start at 7:30 and no further notice, and do you give us an extension of time if we need that?
Yes, we consent to an extension if necessary. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next application of that is of Ali and Scott Simon, owners of property at 39 Greenview Way. This is an application for variance to construct a rear addition to the dwelling. The property is located in the R1 one-family zone at the corner of Greenview Way and Club Road, and is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 1 and Block 4702. A variance is requested from Montclair Code, Section 347-45D, to permit a rear yard setback of less than 25% of the depth of the lot from the Greenview Way front property line. The proposed setback is 28.28 feet, whereas a minimum of 35.08 feet is required. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Okay, would you both raise your right hands? You swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes.
State your names and addresses, please.
I'm Courtney Rombo at 141 Central Ave, Montclair, New Jersey.
Yes, Allie Simon, 39 Greenview Way, Montclair, New Jersey.
And Ms. Rombo, you are a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
That's
Your license
correct.
is in good standing?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, proceed.
Can I stand up here, or would you prefer me to?
As long as you have a microphone, you can be anywhere that makes you happy.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I think it's okay. Just press down to. Okay, our project is 39 Greenview Way. It's in the Yanticott section of Montclair. It's in the R1 zone. It's on a corner lot at the corner of Greenview Way and Club Road. It's against a Yanticott Park where there's a creek, and it's a very irregular shaped lot. The back of the lot is very weird shaped, and when we took the rear yard setback, it came, part of the house, the garage was in the rear yard setback, and the new small addition we want to build will be between 3 feet and 9 feet into the rear yard setback. You can see these pictures on the left is showing, okay, this picture here is showing what the new addition will look like when you're looking from the small place on Club Road that you can see through. And then when you're looking from Greenview Way, you can't see it in the summer with the trees, but here's a white outline of what the addition will look like. On top here is the elevation, the existing elevation of what the back of the house looks like now. You can see it over here in the photograph. And the new addition is keeping the same style of that rear bump out, but making it wider to get a primary bedroom in there. That concludes my presentation.
All right, you gave us a handout, which you also put up on the screen. That was prepared by you, is that correct?
Correct.
So we'll mark that as Exhibit A1.
Correct.
All
I was trying to understand the, what's being, what exists and what is proposed. So if I go to your presentation, what did you call that? Number one, is that what you call it?
A1.
A1, okay. I think it's probably page 3, or it's the third. That has the red outline of the windows in the back and, see?
Are you talking about the 8.5 by 11 or my big plans? Okay.
Okay. There's no page number, so. Let's see. So, if I'm understanding correctly, what you're proposing is to I'll deal with the middle section first. So in the middle section, what you're doing is you're eliminating a bay window, essentially. And then you have 3 patio doors or windows. And you're replacing that with 2 sets of sliding doors, patio doors, and then 2 sets of windows, one on either side of those. Is that correct? Is that what I'm understanding?
That's correct.
What is the rationale for all of those? I mean, how is that sort of servicing? What's inside that would necessitate all of those windows and doors?
Sure. Do you have the big plans in front of you?
I do.
Okay.
You didn't present it?
If you go to the first
side.
page of the big plans. On the top right, you'll see the demo plan. You'll see that there's a long room that's currently the living room and the dining area, which is an awkwardly shaped room. And the plan below that is showing that we're opening that up to be a dining room, a living room, and a kitchen. And they want to have a nice connection to their backyard. So we're adding some big glass doors so they can have a seamless indoor-outdoor experience when they're in their kitchen, living room, dining room area.
Okay.
That part is in the setback, so the primary suite to the right remodel is the part that's in question for violating the rear yard setback.
I'm sorry, say that last part again?
The primary suite to the right
Yes?
is the part that's in the rear yard setback. You can see where it says proposed addition. Below that, there's a part of the primary bedroom on the proposed plan that's shaded in red. That's the part that's in the rear yard setback.
Not that labeled property line, so it's not the property line, it's just a setback line.
You're right. It's a setback line.
Okay, now I'm following you. Thank you, that helped.
Mr. Church? No question. Mr. Caulfield?
Is there a basement underneath this new?
There will be a full basement
And you're
underneath.
going to open the basement up with this new addition on this? Like you're extending out this piece, right? Is there going to be a basement underneath that?
A full basement under
A
the new
full
addition.
basement underneath. To the client there, does it flood ever?
We have not had any flooding.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ms. Harris?
I'm just trying to understand the patio, the existing versus the proposed plan. There's like a hatched area shown on your big plan on the existing. Is that going away?
We're removing that part of the patio, yeah.
Okay. Was that to mitigate impervious? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And is any part of the yard sloped?
It's not really sloped, is it?
Like further back it is towards the fence.
Okay, but this wasn't like a retaining wall or something?
There's no retaining wall.
No.
Thank
Mr. Vieira?
Question about the proposed back stairs. So you have windows in the basement, I guess. Are those being removed? The lower windows closer to the ground? It's shown in your existing.
These.
They'll probably stay, but you'll see into the deck, underneath the deck.
And you're proposing new skylights as well? in that?
Correct.
And then as far as the bump out, the proposed bump, but that's following the existing, I guess, the existing footprint, correct? Just extending it further back in the property?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Simon?
The view from Greenview for the proposed bump out, how does that look today in the winter? Like, will you be able to see much of the addition once during the winter time versus when the leaves are green?
You know, I haven't been back there since leaves have been off, but it was really hard to catch anything in the summer. You won't really be able to see it.
I'm saying like now during the winter, can you see it?
I haven't been there,
I
but
doubt it. I mean, the street isn't perfectly straight, so I guess it depends on what angle you're looking from. But if you're looking from in front of the house facing the front door, you wouldn't be able to see anything.
Okay. So no concerns about privacy, people being able to see from?
it's not much different than it is now.
Okay. That was it. Thank you.
Mr. Griffith?
I thought it was well done. I have no comment.
Thank you.
I have a comment, well, I'll ask it, one thing is a question. I mean, there's considerable topographic difference from your backyard to where the stream is that correct? Your backyard
Yes.
is much higher than where the stream
Yes.
is? Okay. My fascination is how this rear line got established, because it doesn't seem to relate to anything. It doesn't follow the stream course, it doesn't do anything, it's just a very odd, it doesn't seem to relate to the golf course that followed. It just, like someone said, oh, let's have a zigzag line along here, but.
It's like my 8-year-old did it.
Right. Okay. Any other questions from members of the board? Any members of the public who either have comments or questions on this application? Ms. Harris?
Just on the handout that you gave us with the rear facades, where you have the existing photo
Yeah.
of the backyard and the patio. I mean, it does look like there is a retaining wall there. The only reason I ask is, how are you going to mitigate that elevation change once you remove this wall?
It's like a planter, but like you can see the shrubbery. That's like the back of the patio. That's the edge of the patio, and it's a planter with shrubs. And then there's like a bigger planter with a tree in it.
Okay, but it looks like from, the left corner of the photo to the right, like the elevation drops.
We're going to engage a landscape architect if we get approval for this. We haven't done that part yet because we're waiting to see if we'll get approval.
Okay. I mean,
But-
just curious with the brook behind it, making sure that you take all of that, the runoff and everything into account.
Yeah, we'll definitely be thoughtful about that if we get approval for this project.
Any members of the public who have questions or comments on the application? Anything you want to add before we discuss and vote?
No, thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Church.
I really have no questions. I would be in favor of the project.
Same here.
Mr. Coffey?
I'm in favor, same.
Ms. Harris?
Yeah, I have no issue with the encroachment of the addition on the rear setback. I don't think it's going to really affect the character of the neighborhood. It's in the back of the property, no one's going to see it, so I'm in favor of the application.
Mr. Vieira?
I'm also in favor of the application.
Mr. Simon?
I'm in favor.
Mr. Griffith?
Not in favor, I'm not voting.
But we get to hear your comments. We welcome your comments.
Thank you. I thought it was a good submission. Thank you.
Mr. McCulloch?
I support the application.
I'm also in favor of the application due to the unusual configuration of the rear yard is creating a small corner of the addition being in the rear yard setback. I don't think it's going to have a substantial detriment to the neighborhood or a substantial impairment to the zone plan, and be in favor. Someone want to make a motion?
Motion to,
The application?
second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And Mr. McCulloch abstains.
Thank you.
The next application is that of Christina King for property at 43 Woodmont Road. Property is located in the ROA One-Family Zone District and is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 73 and Block 4702, a 1.5-story addition to the southerly side of the home and expansions of the second floor using dormer and gable style framing require a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-39B1 to permit a front yard setback of 36 feet in alignment with the existing dwelling, which is less than the minimum permitted front yard setback of 50 feet. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Would you both raise your right hands? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes.
Give us your names and addresses, please.
Courtney Rombo, 141 Central Ave, Montclair, New Jersey.
Christina King, 43 Woodmont Road, Montclair, New Jersey.
Ms. Rombo, you're still a registered architect in the state of New Jersey.
Think
Your
so,
license
yeah.
is still in good standing.
Yes.
Okay, and this presentation, which includes the handout, will mark this as Exhibit A1.
This will be a similar format to the last project. This is 43 Woodmont Road. It's also in the Yanticon neighborhood. It's the ROA zone. It's a split-level house. This part of the house here was added on afterwards, we think in the 90s. This part of the house was built in the 1950s.
Which part? I can't see where you put.
Can you see my mouse okay? This part here, from here. Why don't I just go over here? This part was built in the 1950s. This was an addition that was added on in the 90s.
Thank you.
We're proposing demoing this addition that was added on later and building a new addition. This is the new addition here, or this is the new design here. The reason we're coming to the Board of Adjustment is the front yard setback in this zone is 50 feet, and the existing house is 36 feet from the front yard property line. Most of the front of the house is in the existing front yard setback, so that's our hardship. So the new design, you'll see in this image here, is not going past the front face of the house, so nothing's going forward from where the house is now. So we're demoing this part here, and we're building a new side yard addition that'll be bigger. So this part here is the part that is violating the front yard setback because it's a new addition. So this face here, this face here, the front of this is the same as this. This is not going forward any more than this is. So this is getting demolished, and then a bigger addition is being built here. So that's this addition here. So it's not violating a side yard setback. It's just the 50-foot front yard setback that's being violated. Most of the other houses, I need my glasses for this. Most of the other houses on the street have a front yard setback between 35 and 40 feet. There's one house that has a front yard setback of 88 feet, which throws the average up quite a bit. These two houses are south of our project address, and this one is 34.07 feet from the front property line, and this one's 35.1 feet from the front property line. So it looks like they were also split levels at one point and got built up to be bigger and more beautiful, like we're trying to do with this house. We don't have the large-scale plans on this, but I have them here if you want to ask questions about them. I know you have them in front of you.
Ms. McCulloch, do you have any questions?
So I think you just started to speak to that in terms of your presentation around those other homes in the neighborhood. It looks like it's it has the appearance of being a pretty substantial change. Am I just sort of thinking that, or is it in fact?
Yeah, it's a change.
It's a substantial change.
Yes.
Okay, so because you're demolishing the part that was built in the 1990s.
Correct.
In favor of a much larger addition to the property, and then on the other side where is it a garage, two-car garage?
Yep.
So you're building onto it.
We're building a dormer to help balance the house, yeah.
Okay.
A gable dormer.
Okay. So, and then you're changing what's over the garage now?
A playroom.
A playroom, okay. And will there be, in the dormer above that, will there be anything?
More playroom.
So it's going to be two-level playroom?
No, it's just going to have
I'm
a
just
higher
sorry.
ceiling in the front part. So the playroom now has a ceiling, like
Right.
vaulted ceiling,
Goes back, right, yes.
and it'll have a dormer coming out to the side, so it'll have another vaulted ceiling that's perpendicular to the existed vaulted ceiling.
Okay, I understand. So if I look at in your larger drawings, HPC 3,
Yeah.
so the roof line in that drawing over the garage is the same as what currently exists. And then the dormer is what is really the only thing that's different.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So in the, Ms. King?
Yes.
Yeah. Would you share with the board what your thinking is in terms of what you're wanting to be able to accomplish with the additions to the property?
Sure. I'm 6'2", my husband's 6'4". We're tall, and some of our spaces on the higher floors have, what's the proper way to say, inclined ceilings?
Vaulted.
Vaulted ceilings. So our playroom, most of it is short on one side. A bedroom up top also has the middle of the home where the new windows are is a bedroom that right now kind of feels like an attic. So it will give us some nice light that we don't currently have in that space. And our left side is additional bedrooms for our two boys. We just have more kids now and need more space.
Okay.
And we love our area, we don't want to move.
Okay. And so on the second floor, then you'll have how many bedrooms?
Our second floor on the left side, the new addition,
You'll
it'll be
have
2 bedrooms.
And on the rest of the floor, you have,
So it's a split level, so like the
Split level.
1.5 zone.
okay,
So that will have 3 bedrooms, one of which we'll use as an office.
okay. And the primary bedroom is,
On the first floor.
On the first
Below
floor.
the two rooms on the left, correct. Our primary will move to the first floor,
to the new addition?
to the new addition,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. So the first floor, you have HBC 3 again. So you have dressing rooms? Okay, those are part of the new addition, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that's part of the primary. And so that will then come off, so the primary will now come off of the, is it the kitchen area?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
No question.
Mr. Caulfield?
So the 90s edition is just gonna, that's the area that's gonna change here, correct?
There'll be more changes, but that's the only thing that matters.
That's where you're gonna work.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any sense of, like the 50-foot setback line on this? It doesn't adhere to anything on that property there. So like usually, sometimes setbacks are done when the buildings are all built, so they can't encroach onto this. But this 50-foot seems to be
Yeah.
egregious in some way.
From what I understand from Richard Sharoon, this became an RO zone. I'm not sure why,
ROA, yeah, or
but they
something.
took the RO rules from up where, I guess by Upper Mountain, where a lot of the houses are more than 50 foot back, and Richard seemed frustrated by the idea that most of these houses are more in the 30-foot setback, but I guess you guys get a lot of applications from this neighborhood for this
Yeah,
reason.
This is my first, I think. Be interesting to see if there's a file map that has a setback, but that's a history lesson for later on. Thank you.
Mr. Vieira?
No questions.
Mr. Simon?
So the only variance that you need is a setback, correct?
The front yard setback, yeah.
But you're not changing that condition from the current addition. So the
Correct.
new addition is going to take the same footprint as the old. I mean, in terms of the setback from the,
Yeah, it's not going any closer to the street.
okay. So that answers that. In terms of you're essentially doubling the size of this house, going from 1,800 to 16. I think you're adding 1,600 square feet, if that's what it said in the planning thing.
I don't know off the top of my head, but that sounds right.
But it's here.
Yeah.
So how does how will the house scale with the other houses on the block? Because it seems like the additions you showed, the other former split levels were further down the block compared to where your house is located.
Let me go back to that. So these two houses you're talking about on this page?
Yeah, and also just driving through, it just seemed like where your house is located hasn't been modified yet, hasn't been expanded compared to the other houses to the immediate vicinity.
This one is right next door.
Which one is that?
So this is the project address here. Am I blocking it, or can you see it?
No, what's the number that you're talking about, 39?
We're 43, and 39 is
Yeah.
the picture I showed of the big house. And then the other one is here, 23. So one's right next door and one is two houses down.
Okay, so maybe I was off. So, but you're not concerned about overshadowing the other houses. And the other thing I noticed, at least from the picture, was that your house is on a higher ground compared to across the street. Again, no concerns, at least from the neighbors. Like, it's not about overshadowing with the new addition, with the growth in the size of the house.
We have a like unusually large lot. I don't know how you would characterize it, but it's much wider. If you see, our house is like right adjust on our property, but we have a whole left side yard that's not utilized. So it is a much larger lot than our neighbors across the street.
Okay.
Whose homes are just closer together.
And give me one sec, where's my questions? No, I got it, I know.
Mr. Griffith?
Hold on, I just.
Okay.
Oh, no. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Griffith?
I have no comment, thank you.
I guess I don't understand why you're not lining up the addition with the remainder of the house, is what I'm having trouble with.
Like setting it back from where the current addition is?
Yes, and have it line up with the rest of that. It doesn't seem to be anything in the floor plan that's dictating that, and I'm not sure, and this is bigger than what's there, I'm not sure. And, you know, if you take your average setback, you came to 38 feet, and the dimension on the rest of the house is 37.6 feet, and I'm not sure what the point is. I mean, now it really sticks out like a sore thumb, partially because it's not an attractive addition, but I'm not sure why there's a necessity to bring it forward from the edge of the remainder of the house.
It's a good question. I think it would be worth looking at the other way. I think it's nice that it gives it some dimension that it's bumped forward, but it probably would look nice pushed back also.
I mean, they're trying to, I think they're, just with what you're I think there are a variety of architectural things you could do and still maintain the same line. I don't otherwise have an issue. I just don't know how we justify. I understand that that's there, but it clearly doesn't, what's there now doesn't fit in with the rest of the house, and I think that's part of the reason besides getting more space, you're doing something that's much more attractive. But I think it would be equally attractive not using that setback, but using the setback of the remainder of the house, and that would be a little more consistent with what the typical setback in the neighborhood is.
I'd be willing to try it if other people agree and you think it would make a difference.
Any other questions from members of the board? Are there any members of the audience with questions or comments on the application?
I'd like to comment. I like the mass coming forward. It's an existing non-conforming condition, so they're not making it any worse. I think that the additional depth to the face of the house is an attribute. I think it's kind of illustrated on the back page where the other two residences are shown. Page 5 of 35 Woodmont Road and 23 Woodmont Road. You can see that in those designs, they worked hard at creating massing, even, with not much depth, but they worked hard to try and create a visual depth on the facade, and there's reasons for that. I think it provides a richer composition, and I think that this design is trying to work the best it can with what's there and create a nice composition. So I don't have any problem with it the way it is.
Or on the flip side of that, they could move it further back, like the 23 Woodmont
Sorry?
They could move it further back like 23 Woodmont is and provide the different.
other direction.
I hear you, potato, potato kind of thing.
Well, it's a, I mean, and probably Zainab, you should make a little note that one of our recommendations next year deals with the RLA zone. I mean, this is a development I watched growing up, and, you know, there are now, you know, going from the old part of Woodmont all the way to Capron at the other end. Well, starting at Capron, they were doing more two-family, but there are a huge number of split levels because that's what they were building in the 50s, and a significant number have been added on, same reason you're doing it, and I suspect we will be getting more applications, and have one very shortly, as soon as you're done, as to doing, you know, and I guess if this were the same size, I would be more amenable, but, you know, this is significantly larger, you know, width-wise than what's there currently, and I just, I'm concerned if there were, you know, and as I said, I think architecturally you could do things. I agree, I don't want a uniform front, but there's already considerable difference between what I'll call the three sections of the house in terms of how they're set up, but, okay. Any other discussion from board members? Any comments, questions from members of the public? Anything further either of you wish to say? Okay, we'll start discussion with Mr. Caulfield.
I'm in favor of the project. Good luck.
Ms. Harris?
I'm in favor of the proposal. I think that since you're not extending the setback issue closer to the curb, moving it back, you gain a foot. I don't know that it's a earth-shattering difference, and I do agree that the massing kind of helps break up the bulk of the building, and you kind of need that. It's going to be massive, and just check with the tax assessor so you know what's coming down the line. This is a huge addition. So, but I'm in favor.
Mr. Vieira?
I'm also in favor.
Mr. Simon?
I'm in favor.
Mr. Griffith?
I'm in favor.
Mr.
I'll
McCullough?
support. I'll support.
Mr. Church?
I'm in favor.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the application as presented.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed.
Thank you.
Next application is that of Susan and Leonard Weintraub for property at 9 Cornell Way. This is an application for a variance to construct a partial second-floor addition on the new front porch of the dwelling. The property is located in the ROA one-family zone and is designated on township tax maps as Lot 15 in Block 4704. The variance is requested from Montclair Code Section 347-39B1 to permit a front yard setback of 40 feet for the second floor addition in alignment with the existing dwelling, and a front yard setback of 32 feet for the new porch, where a minimum front yard setback of 50 feet is required. Were taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Would you both raise your right hands? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
We do.
State your, we do, you have to say, each have to say, I do.
I do.
Okay. So, can you give us your names and addresses, please?
Sure. My name is Leonard Weintraub, and I am the owner and resident at 9 Cornell Way.
I'm Enrique Sosa, the constructor. I'm in 70 Seeger Avenue in Clifton, New Jersey.
Okay, can you spell your last name, please?
Sosa, S-O-S-A.
Charles Millette. I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey, 44 Kettle Creek Road in Freehold, New Jersey.
All right, Mr. Millette, your license is in good standing?
Yes.
Okay, you can proceed.
Good evening. I'll try to make it, I appreciate everyone's time and I'm cognizant of the late hour, so I appreciate everyone's indulgences. My wife and I have lived in town for over 27 years. My wife grew up in Montclair. Her parents still live on Elston Road, which is where my wife grew up. And we moved to Montclair on North Mountain Avenue over 27 years ago. We then moved to 14 Heller Drive, which 20 years ago I could have hit with a rock from 9 Cornell Way, but I'm a little older. I don't know if I could reach it, but it's probably less than 100 yards from the house we live, so it's really literally around the corner. So we know the neighborhood very well and are trying to be consistent with the neighborhood and the look of the house, et cetera. So the house we actually bought is a 1950s split level that has essentially had no material worked on it, no additions, et cetera, since it was built in the 1950s. And it was an extremely, it had been flipped by someone who did, I don't want to say minimal work, but they did as little as possible. And I think the house sat for over a year and was unsellable. And so we bought the house and are prepared to do, we think the substantial renovation that needs to be done. We're not changing the footprint of the house at all. So the only thing that I put an asterisk next to that is we are trying to add a front porch in front of the house. But the addition that we're planning to add on part of the house is just maintaining the current footprint. So we're not breaking new ground. We're not extending over the existing structure. And so all we're really doing is above the main room, we're adding, where there's currently an attic, we're adding just 2 bedrooms right above, the main part of the house. And we think it looks aesthetically much more attractive. It is, I believe, one of the smallest houses currently on the block, and it's much more consistent because most of the houses on Cornell Way have been modified and have additions, and so it's much more in the spirit of the look of the block. Several of the houses on the block do have front porches, and not all, but a bunch of them do. I think specifically 23, 26 and 27 Cornell all have substantial front porches, and we're trying to be consistent with that. I think that the setback line of our house is approximately 40 feet, and we are certainly no closer to the street than anyone, and if anything, we are probably at least towards the back of that line. A couple of the houses, particularly on the opposite side of the street, I think are a little closer, but we're all consistently less than the 50-foot, mandated line. But we're not moving anything closer other than the front porch. So I think that we're also on the lower portion of Cornell slopes down onto Heller Way. And so we are actually towards the Heller Way on the lower portion. So even though we're partially raising the roof, our roof line would be lower than the house to our immediate left, and therefore their roof line it's still actually higher than the proposed roof line. And so aesthetically, in terms of the neighborhood, we don't think it will look bigger or out of line with the current, neighborhood and stuff like that. So if anyone has questions, I do have our contractor here and our architect, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Weintraub, I'm just not, are you, I couldn't understand from your introduction, are you planning to occupy this house?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
It wasn't clear to me what we were sort of looking at. So, okay. So it's not, you're not doing it to flip it? You're just-
No, we are not, no, we are not
Okay.
leaving town.
Okay, and so then you'll have you'll have two bedrooms on the second floor, the new master bedroom, and then is another new bedroom?
Correct.
Okay, and those will all be part of the new construction?
No, we're only adding two bedrooms on the one half of the house.
Okay. So those will be,
On the left side of the house.
okay. So the master bedroom or the primary bedroom will be in the new section?
That's correct.
Okay, that's wrong, okay. All right. That's fine, okay. And the other bedroom with the new bathroom is already existent?
No, it is not.
It's not?
Essentially, it's an attic.
It's an attic, but I mean, it's in space that's already existing?
Correct.
That's what I meant by that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, okay. No questions?
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. Caulfield?
So to get onto this proposed porch, you have to go out the front door to get onto it?
Yes.
Okay, and then you can't necessarily go on the stairs platform and go over? Is that what you're going to do to get onto this deck or this new porch here?
You talking about from the...
Yeah, so if I wanted to get on the porch, so there's no doors coming from the building onto the porch, right?
That's correct.
So you're going to come out the front door and then use the step and then take a right to get onto the porch?
Correct.
Okay, and that platform's a little tight there. What's that, 3 feet there, or like less than that? Like, what's the architect might know?
I think we're extending it beyond the current step.
Okay, so the step and the porch will have the same, like,
It'll be, the new porch will be a total of 8 feet from the house.
okay.
So,
And the step will be, is it going to be a new step there?
no, there will not be a new step.
Okay. Okay.
Porch is 8 feet wide.
The porch is 8 feet. The stoop part is what, 3? So there's going to be a difference between that 4, maybe?
Should be on the plan. I don't have the
Okay.
plan in front of me.
All right. All right. Okay, I'll still think things through, but thank you.
Ms. Harris?
Could you just take us through the plans? They're a little bit hard to understand what's going on.
All the new construction, all the proposed construction is on the upper level on the left side. And the new porch in the front and the proposed deck in the rear of the house. That's all the new construction.
So you're, on your plans, you're only showing the new area, you're not showing anything existing? Is that
We're not
correct?
showing the existing on the right side of the house because there's nothing's going on there on the first floor there.
So, but to answer your earlier question about the front porch, the porch will extend beyond the steps that are, so there's 2 steps and then the landing to the front door. And so the current porch, I'm going to guess, will extend 2 feet beyond the beginning of that first step. But there won't be a separate step, so the only way to access the porch will be from, essentially the door. And so, Ms. Harris, so what would you like me to address specifically?
Well, I was just trying to understand the plan.
So-
As it relates to the elevations that it was presented.
So the right side of, so this is the front of the house. This part of the house is not being altered at all. There's no outward construction or internal construction. The only construction that we're doing is, this is currently an attic. And so we're basically building up to build 2 bedrooms on this side of the house.
Okay, so it's what you're holding up now, that's proposed condition.
That's correct.
Okay, so how much higher is
how much higher is the roof than the existing roof? So what,
So it's gonna be
Yes.
31 feet.
no,
high.
about, no, how much higher than the current roof line is? No, no.
Yeah, the proposed is 31, and the existing is,
Only like 8 feet high.
It's going to be, I'm told it's 8 feet higher than the current roof line.
And so the current roof line matches part of the house that you're not.
Correct.
the current is about 23, and we're going to go to 31.
Mr. Vieira?
Yeah, just following up on that question. So the right side of the house, what is on the second level? There's nothing on the second level, or there's an attic?
It is an attic space that, it's an attic space.
So it's not being utilized as a, as a bedroom or?
It's just an open room.
It's an open room.
Open room, yeah. And so, okay.
I think what I hate to say the flipper, but the prior owner, I think he took the attic space and tried to make it appear to be as if it looks like a bedroom, he just put some walls in it. I think that's what he did, but I don't think it was ever used as a bedroom, and it still doesn't look like a bedroom. So it's basically an open space.
Okay. And now, but you're also proposing new dormers, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think we're doing that purely for aesthetic reasons.
Aesthetic reasons, okay, just to get light
And just to make the house more attractive.
Okay. Okay, going back to the proposed porch in the front of the house.
Yes.
So yes, you have 2 steps, then you have a landing.
Correct.
Same level as the proposed porch, correct?
Correct.
So same level.
So the top level, which is where you currently enter the house, we're looking to just go out and make it the top level.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you have railings or, no, like railings around the porch?
The reason why railings aren't shown is because with the finished grade, it may be high enough where railings are not required by code,
Okay,
less than, 18 inches, something like that.
okay,
But obviously, if it's higher than that, when grade is finished, then the rail will be.
then you'll determine if the rails are required?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Simon?
No questions.
Mr. Griffith?
So the front porch is coming closer to the front yard setback
The front yard, yes, so the current,
It's 50 feet, so you're building into that further.
That is correct.
Your existing construction, so that's an exacerbation.
and that's why I think I pointed out that other houses on the street that have front porches, I think are 23, 26, and 27 Cornell.
All right. The preservation report, noted the commission suggested rearranging the bathroom ornamentation to allow for symmetrical window layout on the second floor.
Yes, and we've addressed that, and we intend to comply with that.
I assume that's the big bathroom on the end.
Correct.
That's what I have. I'm sorry, I have no other comments or questions. Thank you.
Okay, so so you're going to follow their recommendation about the windows?
Correct.
And the railing will be a function of the elevation to the ground, finished ground level?
Yes.
Okay, you had indicated, I assume you have not measured the distance of the existing houses to the front yard compared to yours?
We have not, but we've walked our dogs for 20 years around the block, and I think 9 Cornell is certainly farther than some of the other houses and their front porches. But I can't tell you with any accuracy because we haven't done any full measure.
Any other questions from members of the board? For any members of the audience who are hiding,
Well,
Do-
just number 3 of the historic preservation report, that you should provide testimony on the type of materials that you're using for the addition. Can you
Yes.
speak to that?
Let me just pull it out. I think that they wanted to make sure that the, are you talking about?
Number 3 on page 2.
This is the masonry chimney aligns with the colonial revival influence, and we've agreed to that.
No, if you turn to page 2 on the back.
I don't, I guess my printer doesn't have it.
it's the report of their consultant.
Project review, sorry.
Yeah, we have it. Thank you.
Yes, we do have that, and I think that we do intend to comply with that.
Okay, can you speak to, it says you should provide testimony on the type of proposed materials?
Sure, and I know that, I'll address, because on that, the front page of the report at the bottom of, below that number 3, on the bottom paragraph, it talks about using hardy plank for the new outdoor siding, and that is what we intend to use.
And how about the roof material?
Timber tag. So we're going with timber tag, what they have there.
And are you replacing the roof material on the entire house, or is that?
Only on the new additions.
So you'll match the.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any members of the audience who have questions or comments on the application? Anything further you want to add before we vote?
Nothing further.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Harris.
I mean, I'm in favor of the addition. I feel like the first split level of the porch is a little bit out of character for a 50-foot level, but it doesn't, it looks like you're missing a lot of architectural style here. But in terms of the front yard setback, like open porch and the setback, to me is not a big issue. So I would just say with granting variance.
Mr. Vieira?
I'm in favor of the application. I'm okay with the proposed porch, and also with the addition of the new bedroom on the second floor.
Mr. Simon?
I'm in favor.
Mr. Griffith? Mr. McCullough?
In favor.
Mr. Church?
In favor.
Mr. Caulfield?
I think Ms. Harris went first, because I was supposed to go. But I'm in favor.
I thought we did you last
It's
go
perfectly
first.
okay. No, I think Church was first, but I don't know, like, it's always scary
This is the fourth
to.
application.
I think you did McCullough twice, if I remember correctly.
No.
No?
Are you jealous?
We did not.
I am not
You can take it out to the
jealous. I am
lawn.
not, because I was going to speak on the not liking the setback of that, and not seeing that in the neighbors, as you say, but you seem very nice, and it's a nice project, and another 40 years for you. Thank you.
I'm in favor. Zainab, if you can push applicants to give us the setbacks it makes of the neighboring, when they're coming in for a front yard setback variance, it's helpful to understand. I think visually, I don't think this will stand out. Given it's an open porch, just to expand more backwards, I am very nervous, and it applies here too, of what we've been routinely doing in the areas of town with larger lots and letting people put additions on, substantial additions on houses, keeping the existing setback. And we had been applying the same practice in R2 zones and ended up with a not desirable result. And part of my brain is rethinking what we've been doing elsewhere in town, and, you know, is there a logical distinction based on the lot size? But we followed along merely what our practice was in R1 and RO and ROA zones, and it didn't end up with a good result, I guess is, and.
What is your concern here with the larger lot? What do you think might happen?
I am concerned of applicants starting to say, well, here you let them do it, and that encroached further into a setback, and that's where I'm concerned. In those, we are keeping the same setback. And saying, well, why can't we do the same thing? And we're keeping the same. And I think there's a distinction, but what's been happening elsewhere, which I think we all recognize in our annual report, recognize that something different needs to happen. I'm thinking about, how being more careful, and not necessarily granting, and I think here I don't have a particular problem, but I am nervous is, I guess, how to say it, that people are going to say, why are you doing different things in different parts of town? And there may be a basis of doing it, but I think we need to articulate that.
I mean, I think also too, the lot coverage.
Yeah, I think, I think there are distinctions.
Yeah.
I have gotten nervous. I'll just leave it there. I think, I don't think this will be a substantial detriment to the zone plan, substantial impairment to the zone plan, or substantial detriment to the neighborhood. I will do my second editorial comment of, if the Historic Preservation Commission intends to fight for maintaining the split levels, they're fighting a losing battle. It's very clear, but more power to them. I think the condition should be they do the consistent spacing of the windows, that they not use vinyl siding. I think it's an easier way to do that, and that the porch be an open porch, and I'll leave the railing to, but whether they need one or not,
We've agreed to all of those.
Okay, someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the application
With those conditions?
with conditions.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, if you folks could quickly leave, I'm not sure what we're discussing with professionals. Is it just Michael, or is it more than that?
Yeah, it's Mike Sullivan and then Neglia.
Thank you, board members, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Do we have a resolution? Is there, or are we just deciding we want to go ahead?
Yeah, we're having an initial discussion to say if we would like to proceed, if we're happy, and then we'll approve resolutions at the following meeting.
Okay. Yes, okay. Need a motion, before you do that, need a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Oh,
Okay. The board had a discussion in closed session concerning our, the board's professionals for the coming year. We authorized the planning staff to prepare resolutions concerning that, which will be on our agenda on December 18th. So if you want to know what we decided, you will watch that meeting. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.